If you're over 40 and you want to become strong, fit, and lean without going to the gym twice as fast, then download my free ebook in the first link in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while. Another episode of the Kettle Nights podcast. And you know the gentleman that I have on today. It's the third time that we're having a discussion with Levi. And Levi Markwardt, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, Levi's Heart of the Kill training. Levi influenced the way I train in a massive way. And that's actually a question, Levi. That 2 bells overhead, that I think you mentioned this in our first episode. Was that something that just came into your mind, or was it something that, as a philosophy, that you already lived? I mean, you train like this, I know it, but that 2 bells overhead philosophy, was that something that just came as a thought when we had this conversation the first time around?
Yeah, I think so. If I recall correctly, we had talked about just my own training process, journey, whatever you want to call it, in my pursuit of master of sport with long cycle and my training with Coach Michael, and I had gotten to the point where the results that I had gotten, physically, not necessarily. I mean, performance I'm very happy with, but beyond the performance, as I as I'm a businessman as well, the results that I had gotten were to the point where I thought, you know what, there's something to this, getting load overhead as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, recovering, but not to the point of fully recovered between sets and pushing that pace. And because I had always enjoyed that aspect of training as with my wrestling background, and it felt like, I'm pretty sure I talked about it. It felt like a wrestling practice, kettlebells.
Yeah, you said that. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so, yeah. Take that philosophy and take what I had, gained from raw Cenomite way back in the day when I was before kettlebells and getting into it. And then I really just fell in love with the process of getting 2 bells overhead. And it just kind of came in and it just kind of clicked for me. And I said, if it works for me, it's got to work for other people. The problem, not a problem, but the difficult aspect is it takes a while to get there.
Yeah,
to get efficient, to be efficient with enough load for your body to make the adaptations.
Exactly.
It gets to the point where can you fight through the fatigue? Can you improve your technique enough to use enough loading to get that loading overhead to get the desired result? And so, I mean, it's not an easy process. It does take a while, but again, once you cross that bridge, so to speak, and you are efficient enough in your technique to get the load overhead to recover between sets, now you start to feel the magic of what 2 bells overhead can really do.
It really is. So it was a thought that crossed your mind where you said, hey, just put 2 bells overhead and that's it, right?
Yeah, it's like, how can I
love this. Yeah.
It started off with, I was better at snatch from an efficiency standpoint. Obviously you can jerk more load overhead, but I was able to get my volume up with snatch or half snatch, whatever. And I'm absolutely the worst of the three 2 bells overhead, long cycle, snatch, and jerk. I'm the worst at jerk just because I'm never been a strong presser. Not that jerk's a press, but the rack positioning and is something that it really took a long time for me to develop. A lot of practice went into that. And so it was, half snatch and then long cycle. And then I will do more jerk now, just simply because I know it's easier in that I don't have to get it to rack or I don't have to get it overhead first, but it's harder for me just from a muscle fatigue standpoint. And it's my least efficient of the movements. So it's important that I do it. But from a fatigue and muscular exhaustion standpoint, jerks wear me out faster than anything else.
And why do you think that is, that the jerk is causing you issue, or that overhead position, to be more precise?
Well, I think some of it is just injury history from wrestling way back in the day. I had a herniated disc that caused me a lot of problems on my left side and I still, when I have issues, it's on my left side. So there's, grip issues and shoulder issues. And
so you still feel the effects of that hernia today?
Well, that's what I blame it on. I mean, I don't know. I'm not doing any
Yeah.
diagnostic testing, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
I think that's just probably, and for whatever reason, I mean, I fell in love with the kettlebell snatch, you know, way back in my hardstyle days, and that was like what I started with, and that was what was most fun for me, and I've got more reps with that than probably any other exercise. You know, I do a more long cycle now than I just enjoy that process. It's, you know, it's very meditative. I'm sure that anybody that does it. But like I said, now I like to go faster and shorter sets, heavier sets and shorter sets versus, you know, the long competition sets that suck your soul out. But
They're gruesome. Oh my
yeah,
God.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really glad. I'm really like to go down that path of 10-minute training to do 10-minute sets and learning how to pace and learning how to
Yeah.
pause and learning, you know,
Oh, 100%.
there's so much that you learn in that process is exhausting as painful as it might be. I'm really glad I did it. I don't have any desire to do it again, you know, but I'm
Yes.
really glad I went through
Same
it.
here.
So
Oh, same here. I had the same experience with I think, as far as I can tell, like we mentioned before we got started with the recording, I don't have my results yet confirmed by the judges. But when you look at my set, I did 100 reps with the snatch with 69.8 kg body weight. So that's lightweight, and 98 reps is master of sport. So I'm leaning out the window to say I think I got my master of sport. I'm just waiting for the official confirmation.
the
And
reps that I've seen on different clips of videos, they
right,
look good.
yeah,
They look
they
good.
look good. Maybe rep 100 is a no count because I have fixation, but I was doing a Michael Jackson move, going on my toes, so I wasn't fixated with the whole body, but the arm was overhead, so maybe they give me that. But
I've I've seen a lot worse counted. That's for sure.
oh, okay. I got to keep this in mind. If they
Yeah.
do a no count, I'll be like, yo,
Yeah.
I get that. All right. And so I think I got it. Let me just say this. I think I got master of sport. And you planted the bug in my ear when you said, you know what? I just wanted it for the sake of it. And now that I got it, it's like we talked before. Nobody cares, right? Nobody really cares.
Right.
Even though I have to say, from a marketing perspective, you can still use it. But one of the reasons why I wanted to get Master of Sport is, even if it's probably one of my anti-goals again, where even if you dislike me, you don't like my nose, you don't like the way I speak, you don't like the fact that I criticize other people, you have to accept the fact that I got it. So I have a title that gives me some credibility,
Absolutely.
where I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And you mentioned the gruesome preparation of these 10-minute sets. And I remember when I had this conversation with Dennis in December, right around December, when he told me, Gregory, you got to switch things up. And he didn't say it directly, but that's what I got from him, where he said, Gregory, you got to go back, at least that's how I understood it, go back to the 16s, and then it's 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, up to 30. And then you got to do these 10-minute sets and prep them and do it and know your numbers. And I'm really happy because knowing these numbers, it's over 200 reps with the 16, 200 reps with the 18. I think it's 180 or 190 with the 20. And my best result with the 28 is 146 reps in 10 minutes. And I'm a little bit disappointed that I wasn't able to push through the 10-minute set with the 32. But after rep 2, I just felt off. On my competition day, I felt off for many reasons that I already talked about. And I don't want to, it's not that important. But the fact that I prepped and went through these 10-minute sets, like you mentioned, the pacing, the breathing, understanding your body's really becoming one with your body as well as the kettlebell, being calm under pressure, and these thousands of snatches that I did, they elevated my level of technique to a point where, if I look back to maybe 3 months ago, my snatch technique was completely different. And so I'm really happy that I did it. You planted the bug in my ear, and now I understand what you mean. And especially when it comes to pacing with kettlebells, it's just prepping for a competition, as gruesome as it may be, it teaches you so many lessons that you probably won't be able to get anywhere else.
Let me add something to that, if you don't mind. So not only is everything you just said accurate, obviously that you went through and you experienced this, but you know, and not to bring up, I didn't ask permission for this first, but not to bring up something that you know it happened in your own personal life, but you know, you went through some pretty serious, you know, personal, you know, struggles there with the loss of not only your dad but a good friend in Steve, and you know, and that was back to back, and that's like two gut punches, you know, bang bang. Then much like I did in my own prep, is like I announced it to the world that this is what I'm doing, and I was very public with my journey. And once you put yourself out there, there's no backing down, and nobody cares about excuses, as real as they are. You know, you went through again those two things in your real life struggles, and by rep 2, you knew that this was not going to be your best set, and you know what, you showed out. And for those that don't know how difficult a 10-minute set is, they'll never understand that not only what you went through physically on that day, but to have the mental fortitude to block out the other distractions and say, you know what, it's now or never. I mean, I could quit and no one, you know, who cares? But you didn't. And not only did you got the result you went after. It may not have been, you may not have hit your own personal goal as far as the performance wise or numbers wise, but you hit beyond the minimum standard, and no one can ever take that away from you.
Yeah, appreciate that. And actually, a couple of people reached out, were like, man, double digits with the 32s with your body weight, you're supposed to celebrate. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I am happy. I want to reiterate again, as of this recording, I don't have the official confirmation yet, but I think I got it. But the point you're making is, I brought that up in my post on Instagram, but I chose to use it. I worded it like this. I said, that's not an excuse. It is, you have to scrutinize the lack of performance and look for the culprits, identify them, and then make it better the next time around. And I have to be happy. I was hitting a 14 RPM, which I was really happy with, because on my leading up to the final prep the last week, I was studying Rudnev, I was studying Dennis, I mean, Denisov is not worth studying, because at 22 RPM, 10 minutes long is like, what planet do you originate from? Same with Johnny Benitez.
Yeah.
And Johnny's even, I don't want to take anything away from Ivan Denisov's performance, but Johnny, that guy's like 65 kilogram.
Yeah.
The kettlebell looks, that's a real freak. That dude does 200 reps with a 32. This is next level. So as I was watching my performance, I saw that, wow, Sergei Rudnev, like 12 years ago, if you want to put it like this, he's probably the father, one of the OGs of snatch. And I love his technique. I love the drop where he elevates on his toes to minimize the impact and bring the elbow close to the body. I mimicked this technique as well. It's just fascinating. He was doing 130 reps in 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, so he was using a 13 RPM. I always thought, well, 13 or 14, that's slow. But looking at the other dudes, because the only guys that I watched was Denisov and Vasilev Dennis, right? These outliers, these high-level monsters. And then come to find out, once you are outside that bubble and you actually realize, hey, you know what, 14 RPM, that's a really good pace. I realized, you know what, I think I got 140 reps in the tank. And maybe with a solid prep from Dennis, because I prepped by myself. I just took the words from Dennis and Alexander Khostov. And especially Dennis's word, well, like, you got to go back to the 16, 18, 20, go ahead and do it. And I think the major issue was I was not confident in my last 2 weeks of the prep. I was following Satsiorsky's, I'm currently reading, I don't have it with me right now, it's outside. I'm currently reading The Science of Strength Training by Satsiorsky. Kramer and Dry, I think the three authors of the book. It's an awesome book, very academic level of reading. Takes a lot of time to. I have to read stuff like 3 or 4 times, but there's a taper method where Zatsiorsky says when it comes to weightlifting, 2 weeks out, they don't go heavy. They even dial it back. Plus your TF max, so your training F max, the max in training, can never be compared with your competition F max, because when you have a competition max, you're supposed to have some excitement and some emotional push that should be able to push you towards a better performance. But I recognize I never did a 10-minute set with a 32 kg ever in my prep, and I think that's what was missing. So I didn't have the trust. I couldn't step back, look at my prep and say, hey, you already did this. It's fine, right? The only thing that I did, was a 28 kg with 146, which I was happy. That's 85% of my max that I have to do on comp day. But yeah, so I'm scrutinizing it, not for excuses, but I'm scrutinizing it to improve my result the next time around.
Right. And that makes you a better coach as well, because not only have you stepped on a platform and competed, but now you're doing the devil's in the details, as they say, and so you're going, here's what I think. You're giving an analysis. You're talking to people that have walked that walk before you, and say, here's and that's just all information that you're going to take in, you're going to adapt, and you're going to come back stronger. And so that will then in turn make you more viable when you are talking online, or where you are working with a person individually, or programming and allowing them to, helping them achieve their goals from a performance standpoint, or an aesthetic standpoint, whatever their goals are.
And I think we can, and I want to ask you a couple of things about your Master of Sport journey, but I think one of the things that you can take from this prep is, even I don't consider myself a kettlebell sport coach. As we talked about before we got started with the recording, as far as I'm aware, it is official. They've communicated it on their competition that the Orange County Kettlebell Club seems to file for bankruptcy, which is very, very, very sad, which I think Dennis is part of. And they made it official. That's the reason why I'm mentioning it on the record. But as far as I can tell, there is no money in kettlebell sport, and no money in the sense of where you put in a lot of effort and nothing comes back. I think it is a journey that every serious kettlebell coach should take, because it teaches you so many things that you can then apply to your clients, even if they don't want to perform, because guess what? We talked about it. Almost nobody wants to go down that route.
Yeah.
But I think if you want to become a better kettlebell trainer, and you really want to own that specialty of being an expert when it comes to kettlebells, go do that competition. Go prep yourself and learn. And somebody said, never a loss, always a lesson. I love this. This is just understanding that while there might not be a lot of money to be made in kettlebell sport, and I'm not here, and putting this on the record as well, I'm not going to prepare anybody for a competition. I can give you maybe some insights, but I don't consider myself a kettlebell sport coach to prepare you for a performance. I don't consider myself that way, but I consider myself somebody who knows his craft and uses what he's learned to apply it to a different situation, to the clients that probably you have as well, who want to get in better shape, who want to get leaner, faster, stronger, and all these great, especially the breathing, understanding pacing. This is massive with kettlebells. That's something that you really have to learn. And go ahead.
I completely agree. When we had talked a little bit about this as well, but something that I really struggle with when I'm communicating with people on social media, doesn't matter what app it is, but the fact that like you had just said, well, I don't have a desire to compete, so I don't want to do kettlebell sport. I was like, well, you don't have to use those techniques to compete. Just training more efficiently makes the experience, in my opinion, that much better. And the amount of conversation I will have is like, well, I use kettlebells, but I only do hardstyle because I don't want to compete. And that mindset it just doesn't make sense to me. And then I get a little bit frustrated, and I probably don't communicate well, because when I get emotional, and I do have an emotional attachment to the kettlebell, and when I do get emotional, I probably don't respond like a professional should. But that is something that that's one of my character flaws or whatever. But yeah, lifting more efficiently over time will generate better results. And that there's no, I don't understand.
No way around it, right? No, how can you really, how can you have an argument against it?
Right. And the people that I don't want to compete, that's awesome. It's really, really difficult to compete, to step up there and to be one-on-one with a judge and feel like you're alone and you're drowning, and like, it's not for everybody. And you don't have to compete to use GS techniques. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But, if you want to achieve your goals quicker, more efficiently, and invest a little bit of time on learning the skill and the techniques involved with that, the return on your investment, on your time investment, will be worth it, from an aesthetic standpoint, from a perseverance standpoint, from all types of physical attributes that you want, that you gain from training. And again, not that you can't set the bell down and rest, not that you can't, do your fast and loose drills and shake it out and all that. I mean, do what you need to do, but be as efficient as possible to get that load overhead,
The efficiency question is something that we covered the last time, and I think it's worth picking it back up. And what you're saying makes so much sense when it comes to this technique question of applying it only for the sport. I mean, it's a cop-out to disregard the fact that you have to learn a very proficient skill, where you say, I don't want to do this because I don't want to compete. No, you don't want to do this because you're maybe lazy to learn a very complex technique.
Yeah.
So it would be the same to say, I'm not, and here's the logic. If you say, I'm not using GS techniques because I don't want to compete, my answer is, well, I'm not going to deadlift because I'm no power lifter, right? I'm not going to bench. Why should I do a bench press? I'm not a power lifter.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So a lot of these statements, these one-offs, they're hollow when you look at them through an expert lens, and you say, listen, a clean and press or a clean and jerk gives you so much bang for your buck. For everybody who's looking for some GPP, which is like 90% of our age group and 90% of our clients, they want GPP, right? So, and that's why I'm giving you the exercise that gives you everything all at once. And I always compare it with a set of stocks. Let's say you have a stock that gives you back 10% ROI for the money you invest in. That's great. But let's assume I have a stock that gives me 50% for the money that I invest in. Well, which one would you choose? Well, of course, the 50%, right? That's not even an argument. Well, I'm going to use the 10%. For what? You're not gaining. You gain more over here, right? So everybody can agree on this. Now let's replace the word stocks with exercise, and let's replace the word money with time. So if I have an exercise where you invest 10 minutes in and you get 10% ROI, that's great. But let's assume I have an exercise that gives you 50% ROI. Which one are you going to do? And so since time is limited, and especially the older you get, the more valuable time becomes, of course you want to make the most out of your time. And so that's why these techniques make so much sense. And from the lifting standpoint of saying efficiency, well, how do you think powerlifters move? They want to keep the bar close to their shins. And weightlifters, they keep the bar close to their center of mass. I read in Satsiorski, once they get tired, they deviate from the perfect bar path when it comes to a barbell snatch. Guess what? In the eyes of professionals, that's called a mistake. You're doing it wrong. And now you could use the same argument and say, yeah, but I'm doing more effort. Yeah, but you're wasting effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wasted effort. So moving as efficiently as possible must be the number one rule where everybody gets started. And then, of course, you always hear the same thing. Yeah, but it's not about efficiency, it's about strength. Well, what do you think? If I can jerk double 32s for 50 reps, don't you think I'm strong?
Yeah. Well, no, because you're using better technique. That's the circle
This makes no sense.
But like you had said, and I don't know I don't remember if it was on the recording or off the recording, but it's marketing, and it's something that has come down marketing. To. It's amazing. It is amazing how powerful branding can be and marketing can be, and so yeah. And that's why I get frustrated with being online, and shame on me for expecting to not be frustrated or whatever. But
I think it depends on the community you're building. I mean, the community that we have and that we're building, we have a lot of great discussions and great engagement and great arguments, and people are asking good questions. I think there's not a bad question out there. But as you and I have experienced, this one particular guy, I'm not going to mention this guy's name or unless he thinks he gets some credit. But there are people out there who act like they are experts, and then they walk up to an actual expert, and then they share their philosophies, not in the sense of, hey, let me share my story, but more in a sense of, hey, I know it better than you do. Mm-hmm. And so this is where the frustration comes in, right? It's like, bro, come on, man. You haven't even touched the kettlebell. It's the same thing like me walking up to Lasha, or me walking up to Carlos Nazar, or me walking up to Lu Xiaoyan and saying, come on, man, you don't move that bar that efficiently.
Yeah, I can't imagine telling Lasha that you're doing things wrong because you're not, a specific percent of body weight, or
especially Lasha, that guy.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy that obviously trains for a specific result, and nobody in the world is better than him. And for someone to say, well, just because you don't have my work capacity or look like me or whatever, you're doing something wrong. Oh, he's pretty much doing everything perfect. So, his goals are his goals, and that's what we need to remember is that, what works for me doesn't mean it's right for you. And I happen to think that I train in a way that can be effective for the everyman, because that's really what I am. I'm not anyone special. I have an effort or a desire or a commitment that might be a little bit unique, and that allows me to attain a certain level of fitness that I enjoy. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect or whatever. I'm kind of trailing off, but.
We're not even asking for perfection. We're asking for results. And if I see a dude like you, and I can put one-on-one together saying, okay, first of all, the guy's moving massive weights. And I remember when I answered this question the last time, what is it about heavy weights that make them so unique? And now I got the answer in Satsiorski's book. And Satsiorski says, the heavier the weight is, the higher the protein breakdown. And we want protein degradation, because the higher the protein degradation, the better the protein buildup, and that's what you said, if you eat adequately, of course, right? So then make sure you get your proteins in. But the unique aspect about heavy weight is it forces the protein to break down faster than lighter weight. Okay, so that's one key factor of muscle growth. And then Satsiorski lays it out and says, but here's another important factor, and that is time on attention or mechanical tension. Because if you only do one rep with a very heavy weight, it's a neuromuscular adaptation for strength, which is great. But if you want to do the dynamic repeated effort, which is what you and I are doing, is lifting semi-heavy weights, or heavy weights, but not heavy where you can only do one rep max, for a couple of reps, either to fatigue or right before it. That's the dynamic repeated effort as far as I remember correctly. Then we combine, we kill two birds with one stone. If we can use as heavy a weight as heavy as a weight as possible, then we have a high protein breakdown. And then if I now use longer sets of time because I move efficiently, and I have a rack position where I can rest, I'm increasing the amount of tension that my muscle experiences, so I have higher mechanical tension. So if I combine these two, this is where I get the results. And so putting one-on-one together is like, this dude is lifting heavy weights, it's heavy bells, plus it's sport techniques, if you can even call it that way. It's just a proper jerk, a proper clean,
lifting.
just lifting, right? And doing it as efficiently as possible. This is where you get the gains. And then, I mean, you have arguments from the other side where GS lifters tell you, yeah, but I don't like it when people use GS techniques for muscle.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
Right? I'm like, what?
Yep.
The body just understands protein breakdown and load.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's also true. You know, I always lean the other way, but you're not wrong, and I've seen that as well.
Right? That happens too.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, it's just understanding that it is possible. You can use these techniques and build solid muscle. I've seen it too, and I love it. I love to train like this. And speaking about efficiency, that's something that I've experienced lately on my Instagram, where I had a conversation with a Master of Sport international class. I can't remember his name, but he was pretty adamant on every movement is good. Every exercise is good. And I couldn't disagree more.
I remember reading.
You saw that,
reading
right?
that. Yep.
And I don't know, I want to get your take on it, but my take is every exercise is good as long as you are a baby, an infant when it comes to exercise. Just make sure you get it moving. Whether that be a Zumba class, whether that be just some baby dumbbells or baby kettlebells, you start lifting, you get into the flow of it, you maybe enjoy it. I think I would love for you to have a shortcut with a professional who gets you off the runway as fast as possible. But if you do it by yourself, all right, every exercise is fine. But once you mature and once you get the serious results that are up there on that hill, you gotta have a solid exercise selection and follow proper training protocols. And that's exactly what Satsiorski says too. There are bad training exercise, bad programming, and there is bad exercises out there.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. It is when you have a beginner, just moving is super, super important. And if you're moving and you're pain-free or you're not, working towards an injury but again, there are obviously bad movements because there's people that aren't strong enough to do certain things, and it may not be, I guess, a bad movement, but they may not be ready for that movement. However you want to, I mean, you can get really into the weeds here on wording, but not everything is good for everyone at every given time, and I think there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of things that are a waste of time. And again, it's individual. Does everybody can you gain a lot of adaptation from a heavy box squat as an example? Sure, that might benefit a certain percentage of the population. However, the people that I'm training don't need to be doing heavy box squats. They'd be much better off doing rack squats with a kettlebell, or even front squat with a barbell, or hack squats, whatever, just so they get through that. Just because it's great for somebody, there's a very small percentage of people that need to be doing long cycle sets that work towards 10 minutes. It's just one of those things where you have to, as a coach, as a trainer, whatever you want to call yourself, programmer, that just means, and people don't know if they don't know. And so like they may reach out and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And you may have to say, yeah, okay, in 3 years, maybe you can be there, but you're coming off the couch. You haven't lifted since, you were in your 20s, and you're in your 40s now. And we need to do a lot of things before we get there. And it's going to take some time. And, there are some bad movements for you at this point in time. And a lot of things that are going to be, we have some, you can't run before you can walk, so to speak. So, but I remember reading that, and I think that there are some things that I understand what he's trying. What at least.
Yeah, I do understand too. I get it too. Yeah.
I don't agree with it. So.
And I get it too. It's this, it's this mantra of this all-inclusiveness. This you don't want to be a coach that discourage, right? Discourage is the word, right?
Yep.
That discourages somebody from moving. I get that. I get that wholeheartedly, and I'm the last one to discourage anybody to move. If I see you down the street and you say, Gregory, I've been a couch potato all my life, but now I started Zumba classes and I enjoy the hell out of it, I'm like, Godspeed to you, man. Awesome. But if you ask me a question like, Gregory, is this going to pack some muscle on my frame like yours? I'm like, well, right? You want my honest opinion? Probably not. But hey, go ahead and enjoy what you got started with. Great. And if you really want to pack on some muscle, maybe, weights might be interesting. So I'm not the guy that walks up and says, why are you doing Zumba classes? Are you stupid? You're wasting your time. No, go ahead and do it. But here's the key now. If your objective is to look like you, Levi, or look like me, Zumba classes is not the right thing. And so this is where I have to be upfront and honest. And we have this no BS approach in our gym now. I told this Angie, I said, listen, we're not going to mess with clients now. For example, one of our clients, she's following a particular nutrition protocol. A nutrition protocol that when she explained it to me, it doesn't make sense at all. I think they called it food. Have you ever heard of this? Food tapping.
No.
Food tapping means you do, I'm not joking. And this is not, I'm not trying to disrespect the system or her. And she believes it. She said, if you do this, you kind of stimulate your nervous system to a certain extent, which then discourages the triggers from happening when you eat something or you look at certain foods. I'm like, sounds like woo-woo to me, but hey, if it helps you, all right. But here's the thing, what I did with her. I said, listen, here is my client, Danny. Danny lost, because she wants to lose weight, Danny lost 28 kilograms in 12 months. So that's over 50 pounds. Yeah, he looks like, this guy looks like a changed, he is changed, and he looks like a completely different human being. And I got him into 2 bells overhead now. That guy, his quads, his arms. I'm like, Danny, what's up? He's like, yeah, look at me. He's really, he's having so much fun. He's having so much fun. And I told her, listen, this is Danny. Let's just compare his progress with yours, because he lost approximately 3 to maybe 3 kilograms in a month. So let me check in with you in 4 weeks, and then you should be at a similar pace. Maybe 3 kgs down. Let's compare this. How about this? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So my approach is now, if she's not 3 kgs down, I'm going to ask her, well, what's going on? Because Danny had this success. Why don't you have it? Maybe there's something wrong with the approach and with the philosophy, but I'm not going to blast it into her face and say, that's stupid. No, I'm not that type of guy. But if you ask me for my opinion, Gregory, do you think this makes sense? Which she didn't. She didn't ask me for my opinion. So I said, you know what? You just focus. Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy the process? She's like, yeah, I enjoy it. Go ahead. Great. And let's just check in 4 weeks later. But if she would have said, Gregory, I'm doing this food tapping thing. Please give me your honest opinion. Do you think this works? I'll probably be like, I don't think so. Because weight loss is calorie deficit, a sustainable calorie deficit, plus some movement. That's the key. Bring the protein up so that your digestive system doesn't always cue hunger. And then let's look at it from a sustainable practice. And of course, I shared this with her, but if you have a different approach that you're trying to use, go ahead. But when it comes to exercise selection, I'm giving her the most bang for the buck exercises. I shared this with you in the beginning. Today's workout was heavy deadlifts with a 48 kg kettlebell. She's 50 plus. You know what she said? She said, Gregory, isn't that dangerous? I'm like, no, you're strong. And she enjoyed the heck out of it. She was like, wow, I love lifting heavy. I'm like, right? That's great. And I always ask, I'm like, how's your lower back? She says, it's fine. I do feel a little bit, but it's fine. All right, let's tackle the 48. Let's tackle the beast. She enjoyed it. Jerk, we started with 8 kg, then we went up to 10, and then it's 12 kg, right? And so when it comes to exercise selection, the thing that I have control over, I am forced to give her the most bang for her buck. I'm not wasting her time with the Turkish get-up. I'm not wasting her time with exercises where I know this is not going to give you the most bang for your buck based on your condition and based on your level of experience where you are right now.
You know, let me use a personal example. So I'm fit. I'm 46. I'm fit. I'm lean. I'm healthy. And if you were to see me out for a run or a jog, you would think that if you were a running coach, you'd be like, hey, bud, let's maybe walk. You know, you shouldn't be running. You look like you're in pain. And I would be in pain because I'm not a runner. I don't have a frame for it. It's not something, but that doesn't mean that it's not a great exercise for somebody else. But it's a terrible exercise choice for me. And I'm not going to get the results that I could from running because I'm not efficient running. I'm not going to spend the time to become efficient at running to get the results that running could provide me. And in the meantime, I'm going to do my best to avoid pain. Now, I can get all the benefit that I need, from walking. Now, again, I wish I could run better, but I'm not going to devote the kind of time it requires me to get to that point, to get to that level, to where I would benefit from it. It's one of those things where I see that a lot here in the States, is that people that need to become more fit or need to lose body weight, they will go out for a run. And as someone who does teach running mechanics to younger kids, sprint mechanics, I watch you run on the side of the road on the bike trail, and it's not a good long-term plan for success. And it doesn't mean that running is a bad exercise. It means it's not a good exercise for you at this time. Now, let's adjust your, like you had just said, let's find something that works for you. Let's adjust your diet. Let's get some body fat off of you. Let's get you stronger. Why would you do something as aggressive and as difficult as running when you're understrong or you're overweight, for that point? And that's just, again, that's my philosophy on something. And again, it's the same for me. It's like, I would be wasting my time to think that I can go out for a run and improve my fitness level just because I'm not going to be able to run long enough. I'm not going to be able to run fast enough to get the benefits that running can really provide those that are good at it. And so I can get much more cardiovascular benefit from using my kettlebells, from hopping on a rowing machine, from using the ski erg, for getting on my road bike. I can get all the cardiovascular benefit I need and save my hips and my knees and my back at the same time. And it's just one of those things where it's not a great exercise choice for me at 95 kilograms or whatever I weigh. And with my injury history, it's just not an efficient form of movement for me. And that's how I would break it down for somebody else. And again, looking at people, it just seems running or jogging is a low. I mean, you get to be outside. There's benefit to that. It's a low cost. You buy a pair of running shoes. There's not a huge, entry level to get involved in it. But again, that doesn't mean it's great I would say it's bad for most people. And it's really good for a few and percentage wise. And so that's just kind of where, but along those same lines, going and like you said, it comes down to eating well. And I can't imagine encouraging anyone to tap food on their face unless you missed your mouth and you just kind of hit your face. But again, if that holds somebody accountable and that keeps someone from
all right.
Right.
Great.
Great.
Godspeed, all power to you. But when they
100%.
ask, when they asked, is this the reason why I'm losing weight? This is where, right, and this is why I had this long answer and I deviated a little bit, but this all-encompassing, all-inclusive, everybody can train, everybody can move. Yes, but let's not pretend that these baby exercises that you're suggesting that they're going to pull a lot of muscle on the frame and make the body strong. That's the point. But the entry level is making the move. That's great, but don't promise stuff that these baby exercises cannot hold.
Yeah.
If you do this, you are lying to your clients. And then they always say like, yeah, but how do they say it? It's not this inclusive thinking, and they might be discouraged in a sense of, oh, that's not for me, or, oh, I'm not getting those gains that you are gaining. I'm not going to look like you. No, not with these exercises, but that's fine. You are at the beginning of your journey.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I tell our clients all the time. Listen, getting lean, building muscle, looking better in your age group over 40, then 90% in your age group costs sacrifice and effort. I'm not going to lie about this.
Right.
And this is sometimes the feeling that I get from these guys, where like you're sacrificing proper training protocols on the altar of inclusivity, where you say, all right, let's not care about the 7 human movement patterns. Let's just make some crazy funny exercise. And by the way, I saw a massive GS coach teaching the get up. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why do you believe the hype? Why not focus on teaching people a jerk, a squat, a swing, a press, a snatch gives you 10 times more than the get up? I'm hell-bent on the get up, I know. It's not a bad exercise, but right? It's like doing push-ups on those nails. Like what was that you did?
Yeah, the neuro grips. Yeah.
Neuro grips.
Yeah.
What is the idea behind this thing?
Well, creating tension, and that was back in my hardstyle days. Is like I have to create as much tension as possible, and
interesting.
You know, and truthfully, yeah, you do got to create tension because you know you're gonna fall on your face, and like some of the videos I showed, I definitely took. You know,
you took a beating.
numerous falls, but oh man, yeah. But
and
that
how,
was, you know.
So I would really like to get into your mind a little bit on that front, because you mentioned that's the hard style building tension. You know, I get where it comes from. And would you recommend exercises like this nowadays where you are when it comes to building tension? And if yes, or if not, why? And what would you do different?
Well, you know, back in the day, that was, you know, before my GS days. I think I even on one of the posts I said, "Thank God I found GS so I didn't die." You know, trying to do these weird videos to get likes and clicks and you know make my name and get people you know eyes on me or whatever. And you know back then it was like I don't care if people are making fun of me or people are following me because they think I'm cool. As long as I get people to get you know grow my accounts and get more people watching my stuff. That's kind of what it was. But yeah, no, I guess there's really no reason to risk injury for the sake of creating tension. And, you know, now obviously it's funny, you know, if I'm jerking 40s or 44s, obviously there's a time where you want to get tight and explosive, but for the most part, I'm trying to stay as relaxed as possible. You know, I'm not trying to waste energy. Because I want the ability to lock out and fixate when it's required, and I'm not trying to create more tension than is necessary to move a load. So especially if I'm trying to stay relaxed with 40s, there's no reason to try to create max tension with 24s. I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand it either. That concept of you know, making something harder than it needs to be for the sake of making it harder. And you know what makes things. If I want to make things harder, I will move faster, or I will pick up heavier load, or
That's the point, right? You would pick
yeah,
up a heavier load. That's
yeah,
you want more tension, pick up heavier loads. Well, I only have a 24 kg. Well, then maybe, do a if you really want max tension, maybe do a pistol squat with a
yeah,
single 24 where your one leg has to do more work, but at the end of the day, there's only so much techniques that can use for progression. And that's a good point where I would ask, all right, so if you move a 24 kg with more tension, does that make you stronger? I mean, what it maybe does is it elevates your neuromuscular drive to recruit muscle fibers to a certain extent. Maybe, right? I get it, but is this going to make you stronger in the end, right? So, but go ahead. So, yeah.
yeah. No, it may be a mental boost for you to think that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I'm making it
Mm-hmm.
harder,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, again, are you making it harder, or are you just telling yourself you're making it harder? And
Mm-hmm.
that might even go back to like the whole concept of all you need is one bell. And man, yeah, one bell's great. I don't. I cut my teeth on half snatch with GS. It's one half snatch, half marathon, one bell. I love one bell. One bell is fantastic. One arm long cycle, half snatch for me are two fantastic exercises that I do all the time. One bell will not get you where you think it's going to take you, especially if all you're doing is swings, all you're doing is get ups. One bell. I mean, it's yes. Is it better than nothing? Of course it is. But one bell, this camp that all you need is one bell to achieve your aesthetic goals and your physical dreams is a lie. It's a marketing lie. And you're going to get so much further with picking up two heavy bells and racking them and getting them overhead as efficiently as possible for reps, for time. That's where the adaptation occurs, and that's what's going to get you. It's really, really, really unfortunate that a population of people are so inactive, have been so inactive that we will fall for the marketing lie that all we need is one bell. And if that's what you wanted, I mean, go for a walk, change your diet. That's going to be as effective than just swinging one bell. Or again, I come back to the businessman, the enthusiast, whatever hat I have on at the time. I get really frustrated with what we allow as fitness professionals, what we say as fitness professionals. Again, if you can get that one bell overhead for time, for reps, awesome. But to say that that's all you need to do, it's
Initially,
dishonest.
we can make,
Dishonest.
yeah, we can maybe say, or we can agree on initially, yes,
Sure.
the
It's a great
different
start.
stages, right? Great start. The different stages of where you're trying to go. 100%. One bell is great, and especially one heavy bell is awesome. All right,
Yeah.
and but after jumping into the way you train and always, and by the way, that's something that I had to let go when I was into my snatch prep, because I had to focus on snatch so much that the double bells were killing me. I'm like, no,
Oh
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah, yeah.
I gotta cut back on the GPP with my doubles, and now it's only singles. And
Yep.
I really missed it. So this week was Wednesday was my first workout, getting back into doubles, and I was so excited, man. And my jerk technique is way better because I stepped away for so long from the jerk, but my snatch got so good. So now I got stronger legs. I got more endurance. I can rest. It's great. All the benefits from this competition, man. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And I immediately got started with jerk, double 24s, 10 reps. Second exercise is double cleans or double half snatch. I have to wait a little bit with my palms, but I gave it a shot with double 20s today with the double half snatch. And by the way, I saw you do this too, right? I saw this from Dennis with the second dip.
Oh yeah.
A double
Yep.
half snatch, boom, and going
Yep.
into the second dip, love it. And then I have my thrusters. Thrusters are just beast exercises, and then a couple of lunges, and that's just, I love it. It's just, and it gets my body pumped, and I can't wait to get back at it. It's so awesome. And so getting back into this training with double kettlebells, I was missing it. It was so great. And so bringing it back to the idea of one bell, where you say, listen, that's great to get started. That's great to move forward. That's great to really get you fitter than most. But once you tap into the next level, the potential of these raw benefits, where your body's gonna change like crazy, two bells is where it's at. And
Yeah.
just the volume, you can double the load instantly, and you still have the unilateral aspect, even though you have both bells racked. It's just your arms have to synchronize. You have to work independently from each other, but you also have to synchronize it. I love it. There's so much benefits behind it. So I would say initially it's great, but once you really want to tap into massive potential, this is probably where the two bells overhead philosophy comes in. And since I've approached this, my whole training, according to how you do it, your philosophy, I even came to the realization that while I love myself a swing, the swing is nothing compared to a snatch or a jerk
Yeah.
or a press. It's the swing is great. So I don't put it on the same pedestal like the get up. The swing is great, but make sure you instantly go as fast as possible, move into cleans and snatch and jerk. Don't stick with swing only. Make sure you put those things overhead. That's why like swing and get up is, yeah, it's fine, but it's not a mass, it's not going to be a massive game changer.
Yeah. And again, it's not to demonize an exercise
Yeah,
or
yeah, most definitely.
or demonize just using one bell. Like I said, there's absolutely a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
But again, when we're coming back, especially if you are competing in a one bell event, I mean, obviously you have to train, you have to become a specialist, and and there's absolutely benefits to that, and there's no. But again, you're using loads and paces that are going to be challenging. I guess what I was getting at is the person that buys all you need is one bell, and then that doesn't want to move out of that. And so, I mean, you start with the 16 as an example, as a lot of people do, and a lot of people should. And so if you can swing a 16, and you can press a 16, and you're squatting a 16, and you're doing a get up with a 16, it's like, well, you're really leaving some effort on the table there. And you might have convinced yourself that you're really working hard, but anybody that's gone beyond that knows that, okay, well, I'm not, and I'm leaving a lot of benefit, to be had. And I've kind of, fallen into this marketing of one bell is all I need. And again, one bell is a great start. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody that's using one bell by any means, but again, it's take the training wheels off. If all you're doing is a swing, like you just said, the swing's great.
Yeah.
It's very, very basic. It's very,
Yeah.
very basic. And if
Learn the hinge movement, learn that pattern. Yes. And then
once you can swing, get away from it.
take it to. I think yeah, you're mentioning this good point of we're not trying to demonize exercise, of course. And all these people who are watching or listening, please understand that we're having a discussion that is just without trying to sound arrogant. We're just at the top of the pyramid where we are really dissecting certain ideas and movement patterns, where a beginner will be like, wow, this goes way above my head. I thought a swing is beneficial. It is most definitely. But where we are is once you advance, I mean, isn't the point of movement and training for you to advance? Isn't the point of you to make the most out of your time once you have the support wheels off, once you're not an infant anymore? It's not the goal to always crawl, right? You're a baby, you're crawling, I got it. But once you're an adult, are you still going to crawl? No, you're going to walk. Why? Because it's progression. So this is where we're coming from, right? A single bell is awesome, but we want to maybe take away is this infatuation with this idea that one kettlebell can get you to a level where you are, for example, right? And this is the big point that I'm trying to make, of course, is hey, if you believe one bell is going to take you there, and you have bought into this myth that it's only the swing and the get up that's going to take you there, and it's that one bell philosophy, I think the problem starts, the issue starts, and that's what you are experiencing. I even experienced this, is when then people look at other folks using double bells and claiming, well, that must be drugs.
Right. That comes back to the. I was actually going to go this direction, so it's funny that you did. that goes back to I lift a kettlebell, and that's a huge umbrella. You know, there's a lot of people that can fall under the umbrella of lifting kettlebells. But because you do swings, or because you do get ups, because you do clean and press, does not mean that you are lifting kettlebells the same as anybody else. You know, somebody that's at a level that is quote unquote on drugs, or someone from a performance standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, you know, we might lift kettlebells. That might be an accurate statement, but we don't lift them the same. And we don't lift them with the same volume, the same frequency, the same intensity, you know, the same duration and all that kind of stuff. And there's a huge, again, I'm not patting myself on the back at all. I'm well aware of my place in the pecking order of the GS athletes and the people that I look up to, the people that I am inspired by, the people that really have set the bar very high, or set the standard very high. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm doing, and I can see what you're doing, and it's not the same. And that is the unfortunate marketing lie that we have been sold as a whole, is that lifting kettlebells is lifting kettlebells. And if you want to lift 2 bells overhead, then you need to take some sort of a enhancement, and that's just not, you know, the enhancement that I've taken is time, consistency and time, you know, and that's just what people don't want to hear, is that it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time with a lot of consistency, not just
patience.
You know,
oh man.
Yeah. And so that's the difference. And
I think
are going to believe what they want to believe, but
and I think another difference is, I heard this, and I'm not going to mention the name because he was just accused of it, so I'm not sure if it's the case, but I saw one pretty well-known kettlebell user in the space who is accused of taking drugs. And he does swings and get-ups and a couple of presses and a couple of baby workouts, right? So not trying to take away anything from it, but the key is grinding it out becomes a must if you want to look like this, if you want to look solid, if you want to build solid muscle, strength, and all the good stuff that comes with it. And so often, and that's, I mean, I've watched the 4.5 hour podcast with Pavel Tsatsouline and Andrew Huberman.
And thank you for your sacrifice for that. So I didn't have to, I listened to your breakdown.
Yeah, it's, I'm disappointed that he talked about kettlebells for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. That's it. The rest was completely different. And then people in the comments were like, yeah, Pavel is always more about strength and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, but he was coined the kettlebell king.
Yeah, he's worshipped. He's worshipped as
the kettlebell king. All right. So if that's the case, if you have me on a podcast, we're going to talk about kettlebells all day, every day.
Yeah.
That I live and breathe that stuff.
Right.
Yes, there's other philosophies and barbells and body weight and strength techniques. I'm aware of this, but my love is with the kettlebell. Let's talk about this, right? So that was a little bit of a disappointment. And then you have this idea that, and that was what really got me. This idea that at least that's how I understand it. Maybe he doesn't mean it that way. Maybe it's just the lack of my understanding, the lack of me being able to contextualize what he really means. I mean, I throw this in a room. That might be a reason. But this idea of you don't have to grind. You're not supposed to go into the red.
Right.
Maybe once in a full blue moon, or once in a full moon, or like, right? And so, and we do cardio by doing one swing, drop the bell down, rest for 15 minutes, and then we do 100 swings, which the workout's gonna take like 12 hours. That's like, who does this? Nobody. And the weightlifters, I get this. I'm sure if I watch Carlos Nazar or Lasha's training, it's a clean and jerk rep, maybe singles, doubles, triples, or 4 reps. I think 4 is the max, that's according to Satsiorsky. And then they rest for 10 minutes. Yes, but that's weightlifting. That's velocity, speed, explosiveness, strength, and heavy weights. That's a completely different ballgame. And these are strength athletes. They want to hit the numbers. You're not going to train like this. Of course not. First of all, a kettlebell is way too light. And second, you probably want to get other forms of GPP as well. I think strength is important, but I'm not going to worship strength. What do you think? You're very strong, but your heart gives up?
Yeah.
Well, how valuable is this? You are incredibly strong, but after running half a mile, you drop down dead. And I've seen guys like this. I've seen a friend of mine. He's a bodybuilder. I love this guy. He's awesome. But I took a stroll with him, a walk. The guy was breathing like an ox. And I'm like, man, something's wrong with your heart, man. And I didn't even breathe. It's like, for me, that's like, what? I'm just walking. And then I realized for some people, that's such an effort. But the guy looks like a walking tank. And so my goal is, hey, if you're not mobile, if your joint, if you have all these breaks, and I'm aware that Pavel moves into this, and he has great teachings about this. I get that. But the point is this infatuation with not going into the red zone and his disdain for cardio. I just don't get it. And it goes back into what we've talked about, and that is, I get it. Some exercises are good for some people. Other exercises are better for other people. I get it. But if we want to break it down with what is really the determining factor, what a lot of people want, they want some GPP, they want some muscle, you gotta lift those heavy weights. It's like Ronnie Coleman said, right? Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to lift those weights, right? Yeah. And I think with kettlebells, it's the same. And that's why when I approached your philosophy, I was like, man, this is such a game changer. And it's like, maybe I didn't see the forest for the trees because I had the same idea, like, yeah, kettlebell's not the best thing to build muscle. And now I kind of realize, well, it's actually one of the best things to build muscle. Best in terms of, let's use the term functional for the lack of a better term. Not that bodybuilding type muscle, but that muscle where you can train and set the bells down and rest and relax, or set the bell in a rack where you can rest and get more time on the tension, therefore get more mechanical tension. It's just awesome.
One of the goals that I had, because as I shared, I used to be very heavy, and well, I was fat. I don't need to sugarcoat anything. I had enough sugar. I wanted to look like, I didn't have a weight in goal, like a weight loss goal. I just wanted to look like I did work. I think I heard that explanation from Ray Lewis way back in the day, the linebacker for Baltimore Ravens. I just want to look like I do work. And I think that's where I heard that from. And I thought, you know what? That's the kind of goal that, it wasn't about max strength for me. It wasn't about, I said, with my wrestling background, there was a conditioning aspect to what I enjoyed doing. Excuse me. And I just wanted to look like I did work. Now, as I get older, and movement is more important, and being functional, for a better term, that stuff is more important to me. But yes, it comes down to like, can I use a tool? And you hear this all the time. Well, kettlebells aren't optimal for strength. If you want to be strong, you need to use a bar. And it's like, you know what the most optimal thing for me to gain strength is the kettlebell, because that's what I'm going to use. I don't need to use the bar because I don't want to use the bar. The most optimal way for me to train, to be cardiovascular fit, to look like I do work, to carry some muscle, is going to be using kettlebells, because that's what I'm going to use. That's what I want to use. And that's what's going to give me the results, because I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to do it over time. And that's the reality of the situation. If I was going to chase a max deadlift, whether I was a powerlifter or not, yeah, I'd need a bar. If I was going to be the best, bench presser, yes, I would need a bar. Do I want to have crazy amounts of strength? Yes, I need to squat with a bar. That's not me. The most optimal way for me to train is to put two bells overhead consistently, efficiently over time. That's going to give me it's going to check all the boxes that I need to get me to the goal. Are there times where I'll go lighter and longer or faster? Sure. Are there times where but again, I'm a male and I have an ego and I like heavy weights. And so I'm going to, that's more, I'm not, like I said, I think it was in the second conversation we had, is this style of training going to get me closer to a 10-minute set? Nope, absolutely not. But this type of training is going to keep me interested. And like we had talked, this is the type of training that's going to get me more business. Nobody is looking to me and saying, you know what I want to do? A 10-minute set. What they are looking for is like, okay, I can commit to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, minute intervals, minute and a half interval. I can commit to that. I can get behind that. I'm not getting behind training for 10 minutes, without putting the bells down. And most people in their 40s, they have kids, they have jobs, they have, as you are well aware, the mental gymnastics you have to do and the mental energy you have to commit to walk into a 10-minute set in your training and to block out all the extra noises that go on with your life. And like at minute 7, when the whole world is collapsing on your chest, it's just like, why am I doing this? And I don't have to do this. And I can't, why would I, if I don't want to do this, how can I expect anybody else to want to do this? Because it's that exhausting, that painful. And so what the current philosophy that I'm using is like, yeah, people can get behind that. They can get behind the shorter sets with a little bit of rest. And then, again, every guy that I know in my age demographic would rather put more weight overhead than less weight, as long as they're safe and as long as they're working towards that and they've built a foundation. Again, I'm not talking about the person that hasn't lifted in 10 years and we're starting with the basics type stuff.
Of course.
I'm talking about people that have a little bit more intentional goals or have the foundation already built. And what are we going to enjoy? That doesn't mean there's not benefit from the longer sets and the time under tension and the higher paces. Absolutely. And so it's not an absolute, but it's like, what is the majority of your focus on? Or what are you spending the most of your time on? And that's kind of where, again, what's going to keep you committed, what is sustainable for you over time. And that's what's going to get you the results. That what can you stick to? And whether that's eating, well, it has to be eating, but eating and training, what can you commit to? What is going to keep you successful? If I have to put broccoli on my cheeks to help me, to keep me accountable and committed, then I guess that's what you need to do.
That's what you need to do.
But for me, I will continue to put it in my mouth, and then I will continue to put 2 bells overhead, and because that's what I can. I know that's going to check the boxes that I want checked.
And I think that's you're mentioning these shorter intervals, these shorter sets. This is where I also think Pavel makes sense when he says you don't always have to burn yourself on that front. Where, especially when you look at certain training philosophies where they always continuously burn themselves out, typical bodybuilding, high intensity methods, or CrossFit, where you see people dropping down like dead birds. I get that, and I think this is where Pavel's message becomes valuable, where you say, listen, you have to cut it down. Don't always destroy yourself. Because, as you mentioned, the 10-minute set, if you prepare for a competition, that's very hard, but it's hard especially on your mental, right? And so there is most definitely a place where you want to step back from the intensity in a sense of do these shorter 3-minute set intervals, or the way I do it currently, do these 10 reps, set the bells down, I walk one length in my gym, that's approximately 20 to 30 seconds of rest, and then I go back and pick them up. I like the Enon method. We called it Enon. So every 90 seconds on 90 seconds. I love that. Right. This is so awesome. But currently, again, I'm like, I don't want to time myself because I went through so much timing in my competition prep. Now I'm like, I want to leave that timer alone and just, go by the feel of it. But I think I'm still sticking to this, 30 to 45 seconds of rest thing. And so I get wholeheartedly where, and that's a philosophy that I take from Pavel, where I say, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Don't always burn yourself out, but still try to scratch a little bit on that red zone.
Yeah, there's a difference to what you're talking about and what he's talking about. There's a huge difference between 3, 4, 5, 6 minute breaks and
yeah. But can you imagine how much of a waste of time that is. If
I
you do,
can't imagine having
I
that
can't
kind of time
imagine.
to work out.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy with. I'm currently it's 45 minutes of work with warm up, cool down, training, and
Yeah.
I'm continuously moving. As you say, I'm continuously putting in work, or I look like a guy who can do work because I'm continuously putting in work. Even sometimes when I don't feel like it, where I'm like, yeah, but let's go ahead and pick them up. You got this. And even if it doesn't feel that nice, your technique is still solid. I mean, I know my body, I know the exercise, right? And of course, that's advanced stuff that we're talking about. But I always want to challenge myself to a certain extent, but I'm not going to destroy myself. This is not what I'm going to do. Even with our clients, I tell them, listen, the idea is not, I don't want you to crawl out the gym. That's not the idea. But we need to have a challenging load to a certain extent. And I love how Satsiorsky describes it. And that's exactly what we're talking about is once you get a beginner started, you have a deloading phase. First, learn some stuff, do some basics. Then you have a retaining phase where, hey, let's pick up the pace a little bit. And then you have a stimulating phase where you really want to challenge yourself. And my goal as a coach is move you into the stimulating load as fast as possible because A, you spent a lot of money to work with me. So it is my job to get you there ASAP. And so this is where I again disagree with these guys who say, "Yo, every movement is nice." Yeah, then you're wasting your client's time. This is not where I'm from. I'm from you. You employ me. You hire me to give you the most bang for your buck ASAP. And of course, if you have injuries and all that, of course I take this into account. I'm not going to put you through a burner program, but the idea is I have to get you there as soon as possible because you pay a lot of money and time is valuable. Time is of the essence. And so this is my frustration when then people say, well, oh, you can do whatever you want. No, you cannot. If you do this, then I consider yourself a bad coach or a bad trainer who thinks that you can waste the time of your client with that baby stuff. No, we gotta use progressive methods to get you there as soon as possible. And if the client doesn't want that, I'm not the proper coach for you. That's fine. One of our clients, he goes to another trainer, and then I asked him. I said, "Listen, you know what you do here, right?" He says, "Yes, and I'm getting a lot of benefits from it. My goal is to make you stronger, make sure you pack on some muscle. We got to use heavy, right? It's a relative term,
Relative, yep.
right?" And then I said, what do you do with your trainer in the morning? And he says, "Well, I'm on that balancing board, right? All right. And then I have to hold one bell or one weight and do some stabilizing stuff." I'm like, "All right." And then I do some band stuff where I have to do some movements. And then I'm on the Swiss ball doing some movements. And I'm like, all right, so the typical personal trainer stuff, the typical stuff that I would maybe recommend or that a physiotherapist would recommend if you need rehab. But you don't need rehab.
Right.
You need a stimulating load. So again, I'm not trying to discredit these exercises. They might have their time and place, but for me, I know my client. I know he's capable. I know he's strong. He has some issues with the back, but we can take care of this. For me, it's a waste of time from a ROI perspective. Maybe he can, I got this message too. I got that feedback too. Yeah, maybe it's just good for my head, to clear my head. Great, fine. You're winning, good. But from a return on investment perspective, on what you're actually getting out of the exercise, do they really make you stronger? Do they really pack on some muscle? Are you really training your endurance system? Are you really getting the most bang for your buck? So that's the question that I'm trying to answer for my clients.
Yeah, no, ROI is huge. We're businessmen as well as people that are training and competing. And you had mentioned that your prep, that you hadn't gotten to a 10-minute set with a 32, so you had some questions whether or not you could actually do it. Again, that's an ROI type issue as well. And my prep I was for my last competition that I did for long cycle, I hired out sooner than I wanted to, simply to Coach Michael, because I was running out of time. It's the thing. It's a time. There's a return on the investment, and I needed to I needed to get those services. I needed to get the return on the services that I needed, because I was running out of time on my own. And so time is everything. Time is money. Time is so important.
It
And
is what it is, man.
some people don't have a sense of urgency, and they're willing.
Urgency.
They're willing to, to we think we can accomplish everything so quickly. We don't realize how long things take, but how much that we can accomplish over time. That didn't make sense how I said that, but we don't think like we don't have an honest perspective on how long it's going to take for us to achieve our goals. We think it's going to happen much sooner than reality says. But we don't really understand how much gain we can actually make if we commit to the process, and we're in such a hurry to achieve goals, but it's weird. We really want to achieve our goals, but we lack the urgency to commit the time to do it.
That's a good point.
It's a weird place to be. It's like, oh, I got 30 days to get to my goal weight for my wedding or my reunion or whatever, and let's get there, and so you lack urgency to get here.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I wanna get in shape for my wedding. So let's do some balancing exercises on that board, and let's do some food tapping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
this is 30 days.
And you got 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And so, and here's the burden of proof is not with the client. The burden of proof is with the trainer to hook you up and say, listen, I think that's a big important issue. Hence, I'm talking about this food tapping thing. This has nothing to do with my client. This has everything to do with the fact that she got in touch with a trainer or a nutritionist or whatever that person might be, who actually considers that doing this, I think she mentioned that it's a psychologist or whatever, that doing this might help her get the weight down. If you truly have a sense of urgency, isn't it the case that a professional should do some research, go through the books, see what the education was like that you got to understand how can I really get my client from point A to point B, and then employ the necessary methods? I think it's the same like, listen, I'm in a rush. I got to get to the airport. Hey, no worries. Hop on my bike. I need a car, man. Isn't a car faster? Yeah, but I got that bike. Let's go. Right? It's like, no, I need a car. I got to move fast. And the sense of urgency is something maybe the client is lacking it to a certain extent, but the client can be made responsible for it from my perspective, because sometimes the client doesn't know better. My client thinks that these balancing exercises on the board is actually gonna improve his back pain. Right? And I'm like, no. Right? So he thinks that. And in my case, I'm like, no, we gotta move some weights. And after he got started with us, he says, well, finally, I feel some results. That's great. I'm like, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. And I love it. I love how you said it. The sense of urgency. As a trainer, as somebody who is teaching people to get from point A to point B, you need a sense of urgency. Of course, factoring in the condition of your client, the injury history, and everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables, right?
Right? There's a lot of variables, but I don't even want to mention them because they're obvious. But the sense of urgency is why maybe some clients or some coaches are lacking, and that's why they say, that's fine. Go ahead and do those toe tapping around the world with the kettlebell. Go ahead, let's do this.
Yes. I went to a kettlebell hardstyle workshop way back in the day, and the owner of the gym, the host gym that we were at, had mentioned that he was a kettlebell studio, and for the first 6 months they don't even use a kettlebell. And I thought, if I'm paying you to teach me to use kettlebells, and it's taking me 6 months to get to the point where I can use a kettlebell, I'm not gonna last 6 months. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not. I want
So
to
they're
learn
waiting 6 months. Why?
because it's dangerous to sling these iron cannonballs, without having the proper foundation set. And I just don't buy into that. And it goes back to the sense of
Urgency.
time. Yeah, return
Yeah.
on time investment. And so,
Wow.
again, it doesn't mean
That's
that
the first thing that I think about. Sorry to interrupt. That's the first thing that I think about when somebody reaches out. I mean, we have a certain program, but recently somebody reached out about the exercises. And so back in the day when I was coming up with my programming and everything, the most important thing that I have in mind is how can I make sure my client gets to his goal or her goal as soon as possible.
Yep.
And thinking about that, I'm telling my client that they have to
quickly.
wait. Yeah, exactly. And telling that my client or a prospect, oh, you actually have to wait 6 months until we pick up a bell. I'm like, what?
Yeah. The amount of kids that I have, and again, they're using bells that are, loads that are proper for their level of maturity, age, and body size, and things like that. But I mean, again, we're using. We're not just doing swings. It's we're cleaning them, we're squatting them, we're learning those movement patterns at an early age, and kids
That's awesome.
Kids are so resilient. They're far more resilient than us in our 40s. Where a sneeze can take you out for days. But it's just one of those things where, again, there's with it's almost like anymore you have to before you say anything, you have to list every single variable that you're taking into consideration, because somebody's going to get in the comments and call you an idiot because so and so.
Of course.
It's just one of those things. But
They think you always have to go heavy. That's dangerous. Yeah. Of course.
Oh, Levi said that if you use one bell, you're an idiot. Like, no. Here we go.
Oh, I coached my client with a back issue to do heavy jerks with double 32s, and now his back is out. But Levi said so. Well, of course, right? Yeah.
Yep,
But that's it's even with long format conversations. I mean, you can't take away. You just can't take it away that some people are going to misunderstand it, and that some people are just going to misinterpret what you're saying. I mean, that's it. If I was scared of thinking that somebody might misinterpret what I'm saying, I wouldn't say anything. And I know folks like this. Somebody who's a very good shooting or gun range instructor. I told him, why don't you do a YouTube channel? He's like, oh no, all the comments, blah blah blah. I'm like, all right. So you are scared of interactions with people who might think or might criticize you. So that's the reason why you don't jump on the platform. You have already lost. You've already lost. It just happens.
I hope the one guy gets in the comments and says, oh, another 2 hours of nonsense, listening to Levi.
That ramble. One guy, that one guy who said 2 hours and it was wasted. So again, I mean, hey, if that's how you see things, that's fine.
Yeah.
If I listen to a podcast and I don't get what I want after a couple of minutes, I mean,
I move on. Yeah.
Yeah, the last Joe Rogan podcast that I watched was the one with Alex Jones. I watched the full with Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo. That's like 4 years ago or something. I don't know. That's the last podcast that I watched in full. And anything else is just clips, because it's and really I had to force myself through the Uberman podcast. I really had to force myself through it. 2x speed, because it was interesting, but it was not right. So I had to force myself. 4 hours of talking, and like I mentioned, not a lot of kettlebell related, but I have one little thing. I really want to jump a little bit, because we talked about we got started like almost 2 hours in, and we're just but hey, we didn't speak for a long time. So maybe if you still have time, I want to just jump a little bit into a little bit more of the practical stuff. So maybe can you share a little bit of how you prepare for Master of Sport with long cycle, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the exercises that you're doing, the typical two belts overhead philosophy, but more in the terms of periodization. When do you switch up? What's your current routine? Why? What are the weights that you're using? Why are you doing it? You've sent this great workout. I think it was half snatch and jerk, right? The combo with farmer's walk, where you have, I think it was every minute on the minute, 4 half snatch, 3 jerk, for 5 rounds, and once you have five rounds, you do a farmer's walk, right? You've sent this to me, I think, yesterday, which sounds like an awesome program. And just
Yeah.
to elaborate a little bit on that, but maybe give us a little bit about your experience with Master of Sport, and how did you have to use double 32s, and what was that like?
So as I had mentioned, that I felt like I was running out of time. If I was coming off of that surgery that I had on my forearm, and so I kind of had to start over from scratch. And so I had built up to a 10-minute set of long cycle with 24s. And then my goal was to build up to a 10-minute.
And what was the numbers? What was the numbers you were hitting with 24s?
I think I hit 107 at that time.
Wow.
With 24s. And so I was very happy with the progress I was making. And so my goal then was to do the same thing with 28s, and to build up to a 10-minute set with 28s. And I got to that 6 or 7 minute mark, and looking at the calendar when the competition was, when I was using 24s, I wasn't going heavier than 28. When I was using 28s, I wasn't going heavier than 32s. And when I was focusing on the 28s and using 32s for shorter sets, they just felt really heavy, and I wasn't very confident with them. And looking at the calendar on when the competition was coming up is when I realized, like, okay, you're not going at a pace to where you're gonna be at a level where you can compete with 32s.
And when was that realization? How many weeks out?
I think I was about 12 weeks out.
3 months. So still enough time to do proper adjustments and everything.
Right. So that's when I reached out to my coach, Michael's son. And I told him, I said, my big concern was my grip, just because that's where the bell was. The surgery was right on the top of my forearm, right where the kettlebell sits. And it wasn't a pain issue. It was just a lack of feeling and a grip endurance issue. And so we really attacked my grip. We did a lot of cleans with glove cleans. And we didn't worry as much about going overhead, because my jerk was not the issue at the time. You know, again, I will always say that the jerk is my weak point, but at this time in my recovery and in the training process, it was my grip that was my limiting. That was the weak link. And so that was what we had focused on. Just building we did a lot of, and when I say glove cleans, I'm using cotton gloves, not like lifting gloves, you know, making the bell harder to hang on to. For the listeners. But so that was the process. And then, you know, you had talked about too, that you hadn't tried a 32. I actually did a training set a week or so out, and just had a bad set. And I think I hit 59 reps, and I needed to hit 61. And I was in my head so bad for the next, you know, week or 10 days, whatever it was. And it's like, I can't believe I went through all this, and I can't even hit it in a training set. And I was just, you know, feeling sorry for myself and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, I had 12 people that I trained either at my gym or online that were coming to this competition. And so I was like, well, I can't back out. You know, I can't feel sorry for myself to the point that, and so it was a 6-hour drive. We made the drive and got hotels the night before, and just had a great time. And thankfully, like I said, that was the very first time in all of my competition days where I actually set out to achieve a goal and then saw it through and actually performed when it mattered. So I was super, super excited. You know, the amount of times that I didn't reach my goals in wrestling growing up, and up to the point in all my kettlebell, you know, twice in Europe at the Arnold, many online competitions. I had never, ever hit the goal that I achieved, or, you know, that I set out to achieve when it mattered, until this last time. And I thought, you know, this is as good a time as any for me to walk away and to say, I finally did it. I reached my, at 45 years old, I reached a goal that I never thought was possible when I started. And I was ready to be, you know, that said, I haven't had the desire to compete since then. And we're coming up on a year. So,
So it was 59. So it was 59 reps in 10 minutes. So you were able to do a 10-minute set without dropping the bells. So, and then you hit 59 reps. or did you drop earlier?
No, I dropped early. It was in a minute. It was between minute 9 and minute 10, but I didn't get to
All
where
right, all
my
right.
grip had given out, and
And what was your numbers then at the competition?
I hit 64. I needed 61.
64.
Yeah, I
And
needed 61. I hit
I love
64.
I love that you're saying I needed 61. And I'm assuming you needed 61 for Master of Sport, right?
Yes, yes. For
And
my weight class.
yeah, for your weight class. And Dennis told me it's always important to know your numbers, right? So I get that. But why, and I'm curious, why didn't you say, hey, you know what? Let's go with double 28s. That's fine. Or double 24s. That's fine.
A part of me did, but again, I put so much of my training online, and I talk about it so much. It's been a big part of my own marketing, that, you know what, I was going to go down with this. If I go down, I'm going down swinging, and that was just kind of what. That was just kind of
So,
my, yeah.
yeah. So you said, because this was my thinking too. I see we're thinking alike. So I don't know what it was in your case. In my case, it was like, all right, 24s, I hit them. Yeah, I say this respectfully, easily, the 10-minute mark. Not crazy numbers, but fine. The 28 was challenging. I was like, all right. But when I signed up, and I signed up earlier, I think that was maybe 4 weeks out, I signed up for the online competition. And by the way, I mean, online makes it even easier. That's what I love about Dennis. You don't even have to drive out to the place. You have to record everything, has to be live. And I live stream it. So that gives me the event. And then I invite some clients. This gives me the vibe of being live and being at a competition.
Right.
And it really works. It works great. And I told myself, no, I want Master of Sport. Why should I? I'm not competing for 24, 28. I want professional. I want,
Right.
if I put my mind behind this thing, I'm going to go for the red ones, baby.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to do it at all.
Right.
And then some people might say, yeah, but it's always good to hit the lower weights. Yeah. In prepping, yes. But if I set my sights on, I got candidate Master of Sport last year with the IKFF, and by the way, my performance was way better. If it was a 10-minute set back then, I probably would have hit over 100 reps as well. And for my super lightweight class, that's 74 kg, was 106 reps. But since I dropped down in weight because I went to the sauna and I dieted hard, I fell into the lightweight class. And so that's why I only had to do 98 reps for Master of Sport. But I had the same idea. I was like, why should I compete and not hit that number? And why should I compete for anything less, rank 3, rank 2, rank 1? No, I want Master of Sport.
Yep.
So that was your same idea, right? The same thing.
Yeah. No, again, I felt like I'm kind of on borrowed time, just with life and business stress and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, how many more competitions do I want to do? I'm ready to be done competing. And it was just like, I can't, like, I could have a massive number with 28s and hit and set an American record for my weight class. And like, that'd be, and you have all the people, pat me on the back and tell me how cool I am at the competition. And I wouldn't have earned a Master of Sport. And I wanted that title. I wanted that.
Same here.
I got the certificate. I got the certificate right here.
I love this. Yes, I love this.
I look at it every day.
I'm waiting for mine now. Oh my. Yeah. That's it, right? That's it. And I get your thinking. It's like you can hit all the records, national record, Swiss record, European record with 24s. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's Master of Sport or nothing.
Yeah.
And now go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, and I've got a Master Sport World class in pentathlon, which was an extremely grueling event. And I'm very proud of that ranking.
Wow.
And the effort that I put into it, but it's not long cycle. I realized that long cycle is not, it's not
the classics, right?
But again, I wanted the 10-minute set. I wanted the, and so, like, I don't know. I'm not ever going anywhere that anybody cares is going to care about, um, my kettlebell sport stuff. I'm pretty well, like, nobody cares. I understand that. The only person that cares is me. And I that's fine. Like, I did it for me. I didn't do it for anybody else. I did it for me.
But
And
at the
I just
but
needed
at
that.
but we have to say at the end of the day, you are cementing, and we talked, I don't know if we talked about this now on the record, but we talked about this before, I think. The idea is you are cementing yourself, your status as a kettlebell expert, as somebody who slings around these things and earns his money with it and trains on a regular basis. And I know you have a gym and, I mean,
Yep.
machines and everything and the regular
Yep.
stuff as well, right? But it's cementing your status as somebody that we can have disagreements, we can have discussions, we can have debates, but I got something in my pocket that I bled for it, I sweated for it, I put in the work, I put in the effort, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons that why I did it, because it's like, yo, I want that distinction. It just exemplifies you as an expert and puts you in a different league. Whereas somebody said, well, I did simple and that was a guy on YouTube, I think, and you reacted to this guy. He said, well, I did simple and sinister for time or something like this. It was like, and I think you commented, wow, you did a workout.
Yeah.
You did a workout. Which is
great.
great. Which is
Yeah.
great. But
Yeah.
and I wanted that too. And I think, like I said, the experience is worth it to go down that route. And for me, I mean, the snatch is tough, but doubles is another world. And so I have massive respect for people who do the jerk or long cycle with doubles. Double 32s, it's another world.
Well, I wasn't no part of the snatch. So, I mean, the respect is mutual, believe me. But and to be completely honest or transparent or whatever, there is one other thing that really, we have talked some. My dad was my high school wrestling coach, and I always felt like he would never say this, and he didn't believe this, but I always felt like I let him down. Like I never reached my potential with him as my coach. And like I said, I always come up short. He had tremendous belief in me. I didn't believe in myself, and I always came up short when it mattered. And when I decided to start competing again, as I turned 40, that's when I got into the IKMF. I hadn't really competed since college in anything that would have mattered, And when I decided that I needed help to compete at a level that I knew I could compete at, and I reached out to Coach Michael to start having him program for me. And it got to be that same thing, that same cycle. It was like the training programs would go really well, and then when it came time to perform, I just didn't do it, and for whatever reason. And it got to the point where I kind of got obsessed with it. Master sport in half snatch, half marathon, world class in pentathlon, both American records for my weight class. And I just felt like I needed to do this for Coach Michael. I needed to do this. I needed the work. I had gained so much from him as a competitor, as a business, at learning how to program. I had gone from I've coached two other master sport world class in pentathlon. Nice. I've gotten another guy that's earned master sport in two different events, in all in IKMF, the longer events. I've coached six people on the Team USA, and performed overseas, and that's all because of Michael. That's all because of what I learned from him, and how to program and how to be intelligent and not just do more work to do more work, or how to taper and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted him to have the recognition of having somebody, an American, not a Russian, an American in his 40s, reach that level. And
Yeah.
like, it was such a, and again, he never, just like my dad, he never put that pressure on me. I put it on myself. But it came to the point like, damn it, it's time to do this. It is time to actually, you've done the work. It doesn't, and I tell this to my kids all the time that I'm coaching. It's like, when you don't hit the test that you want to hit, or if it's a traditional sport here in the U.S., wrestling or whatever, you don't finish where you wanted to finish. Like, I'm not disappointed in you. You put the work in, and you learn so much in the journey from point A to point B.
That's the big point. Yeah.
Every time that I came up short, it's like you said earlier, it's not a loss, it's a lesson.
Yeah.
And it makes me a better coach. It makes me, and so it's one of those things where, like, yes, you came up short, and I apologize, and I'm sorry, because I know what that feels like. I know how bad it stings, but it's such a small fraction of your life. And if you take the time to take a step back and look at the big picture on everything that you accomplished this last training cycle, like, you're a better person because of it. You didn't hit a goal
100%
that sucks, but you come out better on the other side. And all those little hurdles and all those little victories, they don't feel like victories. You add them up, and so that went into my, like, it's time to do this. It's time to do this for myself. It's time to do this for Coach Michael. It's time, like, Dad, hey, I believe my dad was watching me. That's what my face said.
Most definitely.
That's what my face
100%.
said. And so, like,
100%.
Dad, I finally did it. You were right all along. I had it in me, and I got out of my own way. One time I got out of my own way, and this is
it
for you.
Man, and I have a similar story on that front where I knew that my dad always wanted me to have a master or some kind of title, and I never wanted to study, and I know that he wanted this so bad for me. Because I think I had the potential, but I was just, when I was young, I wish I had the brains that I have now a little bit earlier, but it's that's another story. And that's why I want this master, because I'm like, now I could say, well, that's Gregory, master of sport, right? So see, I'm a master. It's a sport, but at the end of the day, it's something that I enjoy and that fits me so well. Because you, as much as I know, studying the stuff, which is an accomplishment in and all by itself, and getting your PhDs, whatever, that's fine. But then actually putting in the work on a physical level, that's just different. So that's why I say, your coach has a PhD. Well, who cares? Nobody, actually, because did he put in the work?
Right.
Does he put in the work on a regular when you watch him? So that's one of the ideas that really keeps me going. That's the thrust behind what I do. Is I want professionals and experts to look at me and say, I don't like Gregory, but the way he moves, this guy knows what he's doing. But I don't like it. But that's like real, recognized real. You give the respect where respect is earned, right? It's like, I don't like him, but the guy knows what he's doing. So that's something that I really want. So I'm so passionate about this because it's because gaining recognition from those who are not in it, it is still an accomplishment, but it's not that hard. You can fool people and you can manipulate people, but you can't fool the expert. You can't fool the guy who walked the walk. This guy's going to tell you instantly. That's why I sometimes do these reactions. I'm like, I can tell you instantly if this guy's solid or not. And this no disrespect. If I did a recent reaction on that Kettlebell channel. No, it's a YouTube channel. They call HasFit. They got 2 million subscribers, and they did a kettlebell workout. And I was a little bit emotional because I wrote them a comment. I wrote these guys a comment because I think somebody critiqued me for this. They were like, Gregory, you always make these videos, but you don't tell these guys to their face. I'm like, this time I'm going to do it different. I wrote a comment. I said, I am disappointed that you guys have been around for 10 years plus. I respect the work that you put in as a creator because I know how hard it is, but I can't respect the fact that you haven't improved. Your technique is still awful. You're still using baby weights and you're still using exercises that are not most bang for your buck. And I think if you want to be recognized as an influencer, maybe that's enough. But as a professional, you have to put in the work and improve. I wrote that as a comment. And that wasn't my idea to be mean. It was just maybe sometimes I remember when I was posting a video of mine and I was doing my rowing on the water rower, and people were calling me out. They're like, Gregory, what? Your technique is abysmal. I'm like, what? What are you even doing? And these comments were rolling in. I'm like, what? Am I that bad with rowing? And so that prompted me to check out some guys, and they recommended me, right? My community recommended, hey, Gregory, check out Dark Horse Rowing. I checked them out. I was like, oh man, oh my God, I'm doing it completely wrong. But that's because I was called out respectfully, right? And so what these guys did is they deleted my comment. And that really got me.
Yeah.
That got to me. And then I made a video. I'm like, are you serious? Why are you deleting a comment? I told you guys the truth. And so I was a little bit overreacting, but I mean, it's YouTube. People enjoy the drama a little bit. But the base of it, what I'm trying to say is I want professionals and experts to respect what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the main drivers that I have, especially with a highly skilled sport that is kettlebells, or just with that tool, so that I can step on a stage where 10,000 people are watching and I have some experts who say, this guy knows what's up.
I feel that, you know, you don't have to like me, but damn it, you got to respect the work that I've done. And again, it's not about me. It's not about chasing awards and titles that mean nothing. But again, I'm called to put the effort in, and I'm called to lead my family, and and this is how I chose to do it. And you know, to be the best Levi that I can be, requires that effort. And like I said, it's a silly world we live in now, where everything happens online, but that's the world we exist in. And you have to stand out. You have to, and these people that I don't know, I saw the video that you were referencing. I was not aware of who these people were, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to use the tool that we have become so passionate about because of the benefit we receive from it, and how we use it, there's plenty of space in this world for all of us. There's enough clients out there for all of us, but you don't want to see somebody intentionally just, again, lying, using bad marketing, whatever you want to call it. It's just being dishonest. And
that, I think that's what got me. It's if you are a professional and you've been in the game for 10 years, especially you mentioned it, we live online, part of us. So the world has become a village. So information flows quickly. You cannot tell me that you haven't seen proper information on how kettlebell training really works. So you not putting in the effort, I mean, kettlebells require skill. It is unlike a machine, right? I mean, even on that front, you have to put the chest out. I get that, but it's rather monotonous, not that skill intense. But kettlebells require proper skills. And so you not taking your time, you not improving, you saying, it's fine, this is enough. That's what gets me. You've been in this space for 10 plus years. If you're a newbie and you don't know better, all right, I was there too. But I quickly realized, hey, if I want to get more in touch with this thing, I have to learn. I got to talk to somebody who knows what's up. And so this is where I was coming from. And then you had people defending it. Yeah, but not everybody's supposed to be a pro. It's not that hard because it's not that you make it worse than it actually is, because there are people who discover kettlebells through these guys, and then they see you if they go down the path, or they see a true expert as they go down the rabbit hole. And while I agree, yes, that's the case, we have people who got in touch with us through other means. They saw kettlebells from these guys, and then they were like, oh, I'm not sure. They did some research, and then one of our videos popped up, and then they're like, all right, let me check that out. And then they saw the real thing, right? To put it in parentheses. But while I do agree, it doesn't take away from the fact that a professional is supposed to improve. That's the point that I'm trying to make. And we are satisfied with the fact that they're not improving. It's just like lying to a certain extent, where somebody claims, well, I'm this and that. Come to find out 30 years later, well, you were actually lying back then. Yeah, but who cares? He was providing value. Yes, he was providing value, but that's not right, isn't it? But, we live in a world where it seems to be, all right, who cares?
Yeah. No, accountability is a good thing. And we need to, we can't shy away from,
good point.
We can't shy away from being held accountable as professionals. And, it's one of those things where, again, I don't train bodybuilders. I don't train powerlifters. Mm-hmm. And if I was to, that's why my videos are what my videos are. That's like, I'm not putting out videos of deadlifting and squatting, not because they're not great exercises, not because I don't want to do those. I don't want to be confused for that. Not that probably anybody would, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not out there trying to teach you how to do things that I don't consider myself a professional in.
You have high standards. That's I think that's a difference. Yeah.
There's a lot of people that will reach out to me that want a hybrid program with bars and bells, and I will tell them up front, say, hey, I am not, like, if you want to chase a deadlift with this, I'm not your guy. This is not something that, if you are a relative beginner at the movement and you can execute the movement safely, then I can help you with some percentages and loading and programming. Mm-hmm. But I said, if you actually have a goal beyond some very basic strength guidelines, then there's other people, and I will recommend other people to you.
Same here.
Yeah, it's just same one of those things where, and same with bodybuilding. I have more people that would, in my gym, that choose to pursue the discipline of bodybuilding, for lack of a better term, than they do anything to do with kettlebells. They might do a farmer carry with them, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. I can help you with, I can't help you get lean for a competition. I can help you make better food choices, but to get stage ready, no, that's not me. I mean, I can't from an exercise prescription standpoint. I can't from a nutrition standpoint. I don't know how to cut those corners and get the most out of. I know how to walk around at a lean, healthy body weight every day, and that's, I can be strong and fit for anything that I need to be able to do. That's what I can help you with. You want to learn the skill of kettlebell sport, I can help you with that. But there's a lot of stuff out there that I'm just not willing to market myself as something I'm not. And I don't know. I don't. There's so much competition online for business, and the general populace. It's so easy to get caught up into something that looks good, or it's.
And I think it boils down to having high standards, saying, listen, I'm pretty good at this. This is what I can teach you. And anything else, I maybe have a baseline knowledge, right? Or understand a couple of the markers, but I'm not the ultimate professional. And since I have a high standard towards the way I teach, I want to reference out to somebody who has this high standards in that particular field. So we get some feedback on the YouTube channel. We're like, why are you not showing hardstyle techniques, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, there's an awful lot of channels out there. Awful is the wrong word. There are many channels out there, right? There are many channels out there who dedicate themselves to this discipline. Or to that brand. Go ahead and check it out. And sometimes I get the feedback like, oh, thank you. And sometimes I'm like, that's not good. You're supposed to blah, blah, blah. You're supposed to teach these things as well, because now you're saying that these techniques and these disciplines are not worth your time, which means it is less valuable. So they come up with some kind of concoction of an idea where I'm like, all right, so you completely taken this overboard, which that's fine. Let's go ahead. But that's it. This is my focus. And yes, you mentioned standing out. That's one of the reasons why I do what I do. I stand out for this thing that I do, for that little thing. And this is what I do on a continuous basis, because everything else, every other place is already taken. So why should I, or why aren't you showing more body weight stuff? I'm saying, bro, I love body weight, but there's awesome calisthenics YouTube channels out there who focus on body weight only. They are way better than I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes for people, it's hard to compute. Like, well, really? Yeah. Even if you like me, even if you like the stuff that I do, I'm not Mr. Know-it-all. There's stuff that I have no clue about. Yeah. Even stuff that I do on a regular basis, like body weight, I'm sure there are people who know way more about that stuff than I do. And so that's their respective field.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's nice to hear it from other people, because you see so much of it online that everybody does everything. And if you do everything, you don't do it well, or well enough. But
yeah, I think that's another thing where some businesses or some trainers, or just business people in general, are scared. Well, if I reference this client out, then I won't make the money. Yeah, but you get the satisfaction that this client will like, wow, thanks so much, man. So it's not all about the money all the time. I do get that money is an important factor, but the most important thing is to own your space and your expertise. And you can't be an expert at everything. And if you think you are putting yourself up for destruction, because you're going to get attacked from all angles. You're going to be competing with everybody all of a sudden. Yep. And that's not what I want to do.
No, it's really easy to get caught up and distracted online. I mean, you can go down different rabbit holes, and it's just one of those things where like it gets chaotic really quick.
So let's finish this awesome conversation with a little bit of more practical stuff about your current training routine. So my current training routine, the way I do it now is, I came up with an exercise. I call it the thrust jerk. So I have two bells, squat down, I come back up, and then I drop into, I can show you this here, this one. And I'm like, I got to try this with heavier weights. Watch this. It looks a little bit something like this. Here we go. So let me hold that in the camera. So it looks a little bit something like this, where I squat down, boom.
Oh, sure.
And I'm trying to somehow, I didn't try it with very heavy weights, it's just double 20s, but I'm trying to see if I can squat down deep with double 28s and then land up in the top fixation with a second dip with a jerk, and then pump out some more reps. So that's just an idea that I came up with. But the thruster is something that I really fell in love with. I love your idea. And I did this even recently. Before my competition, I was doing a thruster, rack, and then jerk. So just putting 2 reps consecutively overhead. And I like your idea with the double half snatch and then the jerk. So always making sure the weights end up overhead. So what is your current routine? And how do you go about periodization, where you say, okay, I run this routine for about 4 weeks? Are you rather stiff in parentheses with your programming, where you say, listen, I'm going to push this through for the next 4 weeks? Or are you rather loose, where you say, hey, listen, I just have my half snatch, my jerk, my snatch, or whatever, my farmer's walk, and then I just move according to feel?
No, I'm very detailed in what I do, and I'd probably say so. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is most weeks. Of course, there's variables and there's things that change, but most weeks, if I can do it, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is my 2 bell overhead focus, and then Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday would be single bell and then burpees, or single bell and rowing, or single bell and ski erg. And so, or burpees and rowing or whatever. So that's going to be my, I had mentioned in a previous conversation that I don't combine burpees with my double bell work because the two take too much out of me. And then I either have to go lighter on my 2-bell work, which is, fine. But again, I prefer to go heavier with my 2-bell work. And then, so I keep that. And I'm still just a huge believer in the burpee itself. So I'm going to continue to do those.
Awesome exercise.
And so that is so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the 2 bells, and then Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday would be the single bell and body weight type stuff. So yeah, I will probably run like the same format on Monday, Wednesday, Friday each week. In that it'll be like, so for the workout you referenced, it was 3 half snatch, 4 jerk for time on the minute for 5 rounds. And then the 6th minute was a farmer carry.
I like that.
And
so just to understand it right, so you have every minute on the minute, the clock starts running. Then you do, because I timed it, because I wasn't sure, so I timed it and I saw it. Yes, you actually do it like this. So at the start of the minute, it's 3 half snatch, right?
Yep, 3 half snatch, and then 4 jerk.
And then 4 jerk. And of course, for the listeners, always double bells. And with the same weight, you don't put it down, you don't use nothing else. It's the same weight for the snatch as well as the jerk. Then you drop the bells, you rest, recuperate, and then every minute on the minute, the next minute starts, you do the same thing. You do this for 5 rounds, so that's 5 minutes of work. And then that's 1 round, and then you add, after you have 1 round, you add your farmer's carry, right?
Yeah, so I say it's 6 sets. So 5 sets with the 2 bells, and then 1 set with the farmer carry. So
all right, that's how you say it. Yeah.
So 6 sets is 1 round. 5 plus 1 is 1 round.
All right, so semantics, the way I get it. Yeah, get it.
Yep, yeah. You didn't do any. Yeah, this is how I word it.
Great.
And then I did that for 36 minutes, 36 sets, however you want to, just 6 rounds.
So six rounds. All right, so you have the 5 every minute on the minutes with the snatch and the jerk. Then the 1, it's just a lap, right? You don't time it. It's a lap that you walk, or do you still time it?
Well, it takes me 25 seconds to walk.
All right, it takes you 25 seconds. I love this. So it's heavy but short, right? With the farmer's carry. Then you have these 6 rounds, and you do the 6 times, which equals 36 minutes of work, right? So that's all right. Got it.
Yeah, and so it's about 20 seconds of work. Each set's about 20 seconds of work. So work 20, rest 40. Yeah. And then the lap is work 25, rest 35. So the reality is we say 36-minute workout, but you're resting 2/3 of what your work is.
Which is a bad thing, right? You're supposed to do burpees as you rest, as we all know.
Right.
For those who don't know, it's a joke, right? So some people think that when you do a double half snatch with double 32s, you're not supposed to rest because that's light work. You're supposed to do some burpees, some backflips, and whatever. Rest is overrated, right? But I guarantee you, once you pick up those double 32s, they're going to humble you quickly, and you'll understand. All right, I need that rest most definitely.
So that workout that we just described is probably the 4th or 5th variation that I've done on a Wednesday, and so like I may have started with, I think, so. I know I started with, it would have been a half snatch, jerk, half snatch, jerk, half snatch, jerk. So I call that longer cycle.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's 6 reps overhead, but it's 3 of each, and you alternate the 2 movements.
Exactly.
So I would start with that same format on the minute, and then I would go to, I would alternate that with, so I did that with 32s. Then I would do the same thing with 28s, but I would do 4 reps of it. So it would be
plus 1.
Plus, and so that would take longer, but with lighter load. But you're actually doing more work overhead because you're doing more reps. And it's one of those things where I would alternate the 2, and then I would still do my lap. So now I've just built up to getting heavier laps. And then I removed the 28s, and I added a 4th jerk. and I changed the format. It's 7 reps overhead, but that's how I track everything. How much work am I doing
Yeah.
overhead?
And I just,
then
yeah, I just wanted to ask about a framework on how you are actually make everything make sense in a way of, hey, this is the framework that I use, and this is how I program based on the exercises, the reps, and the philosophies and the weights. So it's like, I mean, one thing that we can key factor is belts go overhead, and your workload. So with that, if we just use that 36-minute round, right? That 36-minute workout with the snatch and the jerk, unless except the farmer's walk, every rep ends up overhead. And is this one of those common factors in your framework where you say, doesn't matter what exercise I'm doing, it's supposed to end up overhead?
I have no issue with cleans, like heavy cleans.
Yeah.
I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I love them too. Yeah.
I have zero issue with them, and I use them physically at the moment. I just can't go heavy enough and still recover. And so that's why I'm going overhead. Not that a heavy clean isn't beneficial. I've got a meniscus I'm dealing with in my knee, so I'm not squatting as much as I think is beneficial. And so right now, instead of doing clean squats, everything's ending up overhead. So I actually, when I'm doing my programming, if I'm doing clean squats, I feel that from a work standpoint, it's very similar to a long cycle clean and jerk. And so I will count them as the same type of volume or load being moved. It's two movements, and so I really try to, if I'm doing, when my body's feeling good and I'm able to work around and I don't have anything that's holding me back, that's how I'll choose that. But right now, because of the knee issue with the meniscus, everything's ending up overhead, and just again, no issue with heavy cleans, but I'm not going heavy enough to where I can benefit from that, and so everything's overhead.
So instead of using, let's just, for the lack of a better term, using an inferior exercise that doesn't give you the load that you're looking for various reasons, you say, hey, let me use that other exercise that gives me more bang for my buck, because for various reasons I cannot do the other exercise as heavy as I'd like to. Is that proper way to describe it?
That's where I'm at. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could do, heavy two-hand swings, or I could do, high pulls as an example. And again, nothing wrong with those exercises. They could absolutely be substituted in for an individual's programming. And somebody that I'm working with, will absolutely do those things. I do all kinds of single arm swinging and single arm high pulls and things like that with clients. But everybody's at, different goals and different, different, training. I don't want to say levels, but different training seasons in their life.
Yeah.
And so different goals. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, as far as like 3 days of 2 bells overhead and 3 days of single bell work. And so,
and would you consider this workout that you did, the one that you just mentioned with the half snatch, jerk, and the farmer's walk, would you say that's the type of training, or is your current programming that you say, all right, that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and maybe I'm switching some weights, maybe I'll go a little bit heavier, maybe I go 1 rep higher, but I use a little bit of lighter weight. I mean, you do have some variations in there, but is that the framework that you use for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you use that for like 4 weeks? Or are you saying, no, that's just on a weekly basis, and come the next week, I use a different variation?
No, so like, I have a format that I do on Monday, a format that I do on Wednesday, and a format that I do on Friday.
So you're doing different formats on each
Monday.
2 bells overhead day.
Yes.
Okay.
And so like Monday, for an example, I'll do a giant pyramid or a giant ladder where I will build up. So I'll start with, for example, like I'll do max jerks, 2 bells, max jerks in 30 seconds. And then I'll rest until the second minute, or so a minute and a half. So if it's 30 seconds of work, a minute and a half rest. And then the next round will be max jerk in 30 second. And then Monday I did 10 long cycle for time. So it was 32s, 12 jerks in 30 seconds, rest of the minute. The next minute I did 10 long cycle with 28s in 45 seconds. Then I rested a minute 15. And so round 3 then would be jerk, long cycle, jerk. Round 4 is jerk, long cycle, jerk, long cycle. Round 5 is jerk, long cycle, jerk, long cycle, jerk. So I build up to a 15, from set 1 to set 5, there's 15 sets in there.
So just for me to get a clear understanding. So the first set is the jerk and the long cycle. And it's always you start with the jerk. So time starts running. And at the 2-minute mark, you go as fast as possible. At the 2-minute mark, you rest then until the 2-minute mark. Then you do the long cycle as fast as possible. And then you rest again.
So
to the 4-minute mark, or
within the set. So set 1 or round 1. Round 1 is just jerks. So it's 30 seconds of jerks.
And then you rest 90 seconds.
Rest 90 seconds. So it's a 2-minute round, work and rest.
Where you say work is 30 seconds, rest is 90 seconds. Got it.
90 seconds, yep.
Got it.
So round 2 then is jerk for 30 seconds, rest the remainder of the minute, long cycle for 10 reps. As long as that takes, as long as it takes. I can do my 10 reps with 28s in 45 seconds. And so then I rest the rest of that minute, so 15 seconds, plus another minute. So then round 3 is jerk, the next minute long cycle, the next minute jerk, take the rest of that minute, and then a minute, and then round 4 is jerk, long cycle, and then round 5 is jerk, long cycle, jerk. So there's 15 individual sets. In that format, you're doing 9 sets of jerks, 6 sets of long cycle.
And just out of curiosity, this is, I've recognized this. The more I watch your stuff, I recognize this. I told you often, it's a unique strategy of training, especially with the sport lifts. But how did you come up with this? Did you take ideas from Michael Son's training for your long cycle prep, or did you just go by feel and see what gives you the most enjoyment? And then and is a framework like, hey, listen, I just want to work 30 minutes, and the way I then schedule my training is according to your method? Because what I'm trying to look for is that framework where I understand, all right, so the base is always 30 minutes of work, the base is always 2 bells overhead, and then I use ladders or EMOM or ENON or whatever.
Yes. So yes, to answer everything.
Yes.
Michael's influence obviously is there. But this is not like I said, this is not a sport approach. Like
yes,
I would not recommend doing this to someone that wants to prepare for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
This is not a sustainable way to train for a 10-minute set.
It's not going to give you the performance you're looking for then. No.
Correct. So I take the benefit that I got from training 2 bells overhead with Coach Michael, and I thought, this is awesome. This is something that I'm really glad that I've been on this journey. I invested the time, but what I really love to do is lift heavier loads. I don't want to commit the mental energy it's going to take me to train for 10-minute set. I can, if I train for shorter intervals, I need to go heavier loading. And if I go back to my roots with this sort of training that I got from Ross Enamite, from way back in the day, I'm going to combine kind of everything that I know. I know that I want to have a 30-minute window. So like that example that I just gave you, the 15 set ladder, work and rest, how I have it programmed is 20 minutes. Those 15 sets will take, with work and rest both, will take 20 minutes. I will then do an additional every 2-minute sets of the same type of exercises. like this last week, it was, okay, so 2 weeks ago, it was, I'm going to use a 32, and I'm going to do 9 jerks and 3 half snatch for time every 2 minutes for 5 rounds. Last week, it was 9 jerks and 6 half snatch with 28s. Again, the same movements, but it's more reps. It's actually, even though it's lighter and quote unquote easier, it was more work overhead.
Yes.
With those 3 additional reps. And so it ended up being more difficult. And I actually had
conditioning wise, right? Because it's more work. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I actually had to sneak in an extra minute rest in there. I don't like to admit that, but I had to take one for safety reasons. But so that with those additional 5, so it would be work 40 seconds, rest a minute 20. That's just how long it took. And so, but with the work and rest combined, that's 5 2-minute sets. That got me to that 20-minute work that I needed to get to.
Yes.
Or that 30-minute, 20 for the ladders, and then an additional 10 minutes.
And when you're saying for time, so does it, when you mentioned this example, what was it? 9 jerk and 6 half snatch, right?
Yep. And that was taking me 40 seconds to do that.
40 seconds to do this, and then the minute it's that Enon principle again. It's like, listen, the timer starts running for 2 minutes. It starts running. I have that exercise prescription with the weight and the reps. This is what I have to do, and the rest is rest.
Yep.
So, and I've seen is that one of your approaches that you enjoy the most, where it keeps you timed, right? It keeps you in that framework where you know, all right, this is the work that I have to do, and then it forces me to not take too much rest, even though you said, and sometimes I felt that too. Sometimes I'm like, I gotta stop the clock. It's just, I gotta catch my breath. But that's of course an individual question where you have to know your body and understand your conditions or your conditioning to make these decisions. But you're using a lot of these timing frames where you say, this gives me the window, I know the exercises, I know the work, and it keeps me in that 30-minute window. It keeps the work and the rest in a good ratio, but you like this timing window, right? Working a lot with time, right?
Yeah. Somebody just asked me this week on one of my posts, I don't even remember what platform, but they asked me if I track my heart rate, and it's like, I don't. I go when the clock says it's time to go, and that I try to keep everything. I do this this work when I'm too beat up, and I just do a body weight exercise. I do this. I love it. It sucks. It's absolutely terrible, but I'll do 25 burpees for time. I'll ski 300 meters, and then I will do 5 burpees for time. And I do that every 3.5 minutes. And I do my damnedest to get that work done in 2.5 minutes, so I get a full minute rest. I'll do that for 10 rounds. So it ends up being 3,000 meters skied and 300 burpees. And it's one of those things where and it takes me just over 30 minutes to do it. Like 32, 30 or 33, 30 or something. It's absolutely brutal, but it's one of those things where I know that I can do that. And I've done those kinds of things enough to where I'm like, I know I've been doing this so long with this sort of mindset. I know what I'm capable of. And it's one of those things where if I can't get it done in a specific amount of time, I need to reduce the intensity or the load that's being used,
or the distance that you have to
or the distance
cover
I'm
with
skiing in this case.
Yeah.
I have to fit it within certain parameters. And again, there's times where I've overshot it. I'm like, okay, you are drunk right now. You're nowhere close to being able to do this, But I track everything.
Yeah.
And so okay, well, here's where I messed up. I can fix that, and I can. It just takes me one time to screw up, and okay, here's where I can improve this, and the next time I'll nail it. Okay, now how do I improve from that? And so it's one of those things where so I'll do that for 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. I'll take the same format for 4 or 5 weeks, and I'll tweak it just a little bit. It might be 1 rep here, or I might drop down a load a bell size, but do 2, 3, 4 more reps at the same pace.
Love it. I love it.
One of those things. And again, it all comes back down to, okay, so at the end of the day, I did this amount of work reps wise. I did this amount of work overhead. Now, when I come back the next week, how can I do this to get just a little bit better?
I had the same, man, I love this. I had the same concept in mind, because now after my competition, I thought, you know what, let's get back to it. Don't go too heavy. It's just after competition, my body still, even though I feel great, but my body still took a beating from the competition. And it's incredible to think what 7 minutes, I didn't even do a 10-minute set, what 7 minutes working with a 32 kg, running on fumes, really, and trying to get to the set, what this does to your body a couple of days later. Not just the palm skin. I mean, the palm skin is just, I didn't even feel this, that my skin was torn, but this was my weak side, my weak spot. I knew that this is going to bust. But what it does to your body, you just have to be very mindful and smart about it, especially when you're in the over 40 crowd. I mean, I still like to think that I'm invincible, but my body it tells me sometimes, bro, listen, you got to be careful. And so I got back to it, and I was putting close to 10 tons of weights overhead in my Wednesday session. Was 30 minutes of work or 35 minutes of work, 29 sets, 8 activities, or the 8 exercises. And I was really happy with it. And I felt great with the double 24s. I was like, first I thought, let's do a 10 rep first, and then go down to 8, then down to 6, down to 4. But I felt so good that I did everything with 10. And I stayed with the 24s. And I'm like, wow, it goes really well. So 10 jerk, 10 cleans, or double half snatch. The only exercise that I went down with the reps was the thruster, because it's a combo exercise where I always feel like if I go for 10, I'm just overshooting. So I always take that exercise down. The thruster is just the squat and the press. It's just so demanding.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's really terrible. And I know that now I got close to 10 tons of work. Great. Today, because I know I'm post competition, I didn't want to, but I forced myself to use double 20s. I already wanted to go pick up the pumpkins, but I'm like, no. You have to listen to your body. Don't overshoot it. So I did the same principle with double 20s, and I think it was like 7 or close to 8 tons of work overhead. And so I had the same idea. I was like, all right, next week, let's aim for 11 tons.
Yeah.
And let's aim for 9 tons. And so this is your approach as well, where you say, hey, how can I tweak it so that I go a little bit above my volume that I did with my current work? And what is your average volume in terms of tonnage? How many tons do you move per workout?
Well, again, that'll depend on what is being jerked versus what is being half snatched, and what reps are being done with each one. And so I try to have some nuance, simply because
interesting.
You can get more load overhead, obviously, with jerk only, because you're not having to rehinge every time. And then typically I'll go a little bit lighter intentionally with my half snatch, because if I do heavy half snatch, then I can't recover fast enough.
Yeah, the conditioning it just takes over, right?
It just takes over, right? So you have to find that sweet spot. So I can go heavier with jerks. I can go, if jerks are heavy, then long cycles moderate and half snatch is light. Just as an example.
Oh, I like that.
And so then we have to say, okay, well, I have to do X amount of reps with my half snatch to keep up with the X amount of reps that I've done with my long cycle, and I'm going to do X amount of reps with my jerks. However, if I get carried away, like my jerks beat me up so bad as far as, the overhead work and recovery aspect of it, then I got to scale back everything else. And so I really got to be mindful of what my exercise choices are. And so a lot of times I only do 2 of the 3 exercises. And so like I might only do long cycle and half snatch. And then the next time it would be jerk and half snatch, and then the next time I might be jerk and long cycle. Because if I try to get I need to keep it as simple as possible. But again, it comes back down to like I track absolutely everything, and then I total up the work that was completed. And then before I go into my next session that week, so if that was on Monday, the next Monday before I go into the next session, okay, how can I tweak this just a little bit
Yeah,
to
exactly.
constantly?
Yeah.
Now, at some point in time, you can't improve. You can't improve every
diminishing
time.
returns, right? Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
at some point in time, you got to scale it back, and you got to,
Or switch up the exercises, do something different, right?
or switch it up. Yep. And then one of those things where like there's also times where like, oh my gosh, I barely survived that. And I do the math on what actually happened. And I did less work than I did the time before.
It's crazy.
But I did more half snatch this time. And so like, oh, it took more out of me to do that half snatch versus the long cycle. And so okay, I did less work. However, I worked more while doing less.
This is the point of Satsiorski, I think, where he says heavier weights equal higher protein breakdown.
Yeah.
And so if you know that the heavy weights that you moved, it's heavier weight, but maybe less mechanical tension because of the fact that you used heavier weights. The protein breakdown is so high that you feel it in the sense of, well, I had less mechanical tension, which means less reps performed, but the protein breakdown was higher. And I think this is where I sometimes try to draw the line between, is it rather conditioning focused or am I rather strength muscle focused, right? I mean, everything is always a little bit in tandem, these three motor abilities and physical aspects of human performance. But at the end of the day, I try to say, hey, what is the main goal? And in my case, it's the Wednesday and Friday is always 2 bells. And then I want to rather focus on the strength and muscle side and not get too much conditioning work done, even though it happens anyway. But if I have heavier weights, I know I have to perform less reps because it takes more out of you. I think that's the protein breakdown question that I was trying to answer, and that Satsiorski gave me with the book that I'm reading. And so. And do you have a number of your average volume of weight that you're moving, the total tonnage?
I do. I couldn't tell
just
you
an average
on my head.
Yeah.
I like to see between, sometimes I surprise myself and I'm like, oh, I really did a lot of work today. And then sometimes it's like, oh, I thought I worked harder than that today. I would say that 11,000 kgs in a workout.
11 tons. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so if I can get over 10, awesome. And again, I try to keep everything within that half-hour window. Sometimes I go longer, like that 36-minute workout. So that 36-minute workout was, that's 210 reps overhead with 32s in that.
And an important thing, you make a distinction between the weights moved. I mean, my app just counts down. If I did 10 cleans with double 24s, it counts as 240 kilograms to the tonnage. But you're making a difference between is that right? You're making a difference between
I have to squat with it or get it overhead.
That's what you count. So
that's what I count. Yep.
And you say
if I do heavy cleans, it's not that my body doesn't generate that kind of benefit from it. Clearly they count as reps, because they're going to fatigue everything else that I do, or makes everything else harder because of the fatigue. But I don't count it as my volume overhead or my volume.
That's an important distinction, because of course I'm hitting a 10 tons mark because I have other exercises. I do lunges as well, and that's what I've realized. If I have especially double 28s, when I get into my really heavy working weights, double 28s and double 30s. But then, I mean, double 30s and double 32s, it's always maybe 3 or 4 reps. I mean, anything else, it's just, even though I wonder what I can do now after my competition, since I've taken some time away from it. But I've realized if I put everything overhead, the fatigue sets in way more quickly. If out of the 4 exercises that I do, everything goes overhead, it's like, wow, the fatigue sets in quickly and the breakdown happens earlier, which means I can't do as much work. So just to put in perspective for everybody that's watching and listening, putting 10 tons of work overhead per workout in a short time window, I mean, 30 minutes isn't even that long, right? That's heavy. That's heavy work done.
And for those that are listening, like as long as you track it the same way every time, it doesn't matter. Like if you wanted to track like you're doing with your every rep counts, awesome. Just do it that way every time. If you want to track it with just me, like me, is just I'm only counting what I put overhead or what I squat.
But I love that.
But
I love that approach.
Just as long as you do it the same way, it doesn't matter. Like,
and you keep track of it, right? At least you have the numbers. I think this is where a lot of people are missing out when they say, "Well, I'm just doing X amount of reps with the 24 or the 20 and blah blah blah." Yeah, but what's your total workload? What's your volume? Where are you with your workouts? Well, I actually don't know because I don't track it. Well, then you're leaving massive gains on the table or massive potential to adapt and improve because you don't know the numbers. That's something that really stuck with me with Dennis when he said you have to know the numbers. And that's not just performance-wise. It's also how much work is actually being done. And I think it goes back to the sense of urgency where you say, I want to make the most out of my 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can't stress keeping a workout log, a detailed workout log enough. And that's why everything that I do, I just use Google Sheets and I use Google for personally, my personal stuff. And this isn't I'm not trying to sell Google to anybody, but
I think you don't have to. They're all already well known.
Right. Yeah. But all my online clients use Google as well. And it just makes it super easy to track everything. And once you can, so for me, it's just, I copy and paste, one Monday to the next Monday. And then I just put in the small adjustments that I make. And it could be one of those things too, where like I have an idea of what I'm going to do based on what I did, and what I'm going to do has to change because I'm just not quite. So my goal might have been, the longer cycle as an example. Like I want to do 4 reps so I do half snatch jerk for 4 reps, 8 overhead, but for 4 reps of that combination. I'm like, okay, that's not going to happen today. So I'm going to have to go lighter, but I'm going to do, instead of doing 8 reps of 32s, 4 of each, I'm going to do, I'm going to drop down to 28s and I'm going to do 5 half snatch, 5 jerk. So I'm getting 10 reps overhead, but it's a different format with a lighter belt. Because that format of 5 and 5, believe it or not, is easier than alternating the 2 exercises. 5 and 5, for whatever reason for me, is way easier. It's still 10 reps than it is to alternate half snatch jerk, half snatch jerk, half snatch jerk.
So to understand it, you say 5 jerk and 5 half snatch is easier for you than?
Yes, then alternating a half snatch jerk, half snatch jerk. So what I call longer cycle.
I get it. Where you do 10 half snatch, rest, and then 10 jerk. That's harder on your system than 5 half snatch and 5 jerk at the same time.
No, what I mean is if I alternate half snatch and jerk for 10 total reps, 5 each, that is harder for me than to do 5 half snatch, then 5 jerk. Same amount of reps overhead, same load, but format of
the sequence
is more difficult, and so that's something that I'll track. That's something I'll track as well. Is like it's the same amount of load overhead, same amount of volume of work.
But the sequence is different.
The sequence is more difficult, and so if I'm feeling like okay, that's more exhausting, that's why. So that's something else I track too. I track my feeling. And again, so like I kind of nerd out on everything, but that's the difference between I lift kettlebells, quote unquote, and I don't look like you. Why is that? And it's like, well, I could show you. Show me your workout log. I can show you mine.
Yeah, and putting in the work and knowing the numbers and writing it down, and that's dedication, right? But understanding where that's one thing that I took from my competition. I did it before as well, but after my competition, I'm like, I tracked all the numbers, I wrote it down, I see where I was performing. I even had a little formula where I knew, all right, if I do 146 reps with the 28, then it should be around 130 with the 32s based on that performance. So you are doing these little equations and that little math where you are expecting a certain result. And even though I didn't hit it back on my competition day, I know that, well, this works. So the same was, I was actually doing a formula. I was like, all right, so if I do 10 reps with the double 24s, 10 jerk with double 24s, I'm assuming, well, it should be 7 reps maybe with double 28s. Well, according to my formula, it should be 9. I'm like, oh, all right. But if I do double 32s, because I use this weight, like 48 kg equals 10 reps, so 64 kg equals what? And then the formula tells me, well, 64 equals 8. And I'm like, what, man? That's heavy. That's heavy. But it's something to strive towards, to where I say, listen, I want to hit those numbers. I want to get there. And it's something that keeps me motivated, where I say, all right, I know my numbers. And at the end of the day, you're so focused on a good sequence, on a good workout, on a good, on those numbers, where your body then builds this great layer of foundation, and you get all these benefits because you are doing what Satsioki is saying, what athletes are supposed to do, right? Where you take everything apart, and then you see what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's important to understand for people who are watching and listening. This is highly advanced stuff. I think where you are and where I'm trying to get to is, you have to nerd it out, which means you have to fall in love with it. You have to be willing to move those heavy weights. You have to be willing to track. You have to be willing to see what numbers can I hit based on the volume that I did, just 10% more. And this requires a lot of effort, which is fine. It is rather advanced, but the upshot of the situation is then, don't think that Levi is doing something else because of his results and you don't have them. The main reason is you're not willing to put in the work. And that's fine. That's fine. But it is a prerequisite to want to put in the work, from a sequence perspective, from knowing the weights, from writing it down, to get those results. And that's something that I now trying to hold my standard towards, because my workouts maybe a couple of months ago was just like a little bit stale. I didn't write them down. And now I'm getting into the groove of, no, I want to hit the next level, build a little bit more.
Yeah. Yep.
People, and is, yeah, go ahead.
And that just goes back to what I said earlier. People don't really understand how far they can get with a committed effort over time, is because
with a good program,
they've never detailed what they're doing. And again, a lot of what I've done, it's different for me, because this is what I do. This is what I enjoy. I understand that. I get excited about the little details that most people don't even think about or could care less about. And so then again, that's why it's important to hire out as well. And so like a lot of this, like I said, I have zero regrets on paying whatever Michael asked me to pay him, because the return on that investment, of that monetary investment, has been, okay, well, look what it's done for me. It's given me a completely different way to train. Like, this is not throwing any shade at all to the hardstyle method of the certifications that I took. There was nothing that was ever done on any workshop or certification that I took that had anything to do with programming, or how to, constantly improve. With what it was always about, can you do this exercise? Awesome. So now you're going to do this for 5 reps, and you're going to set it down, and then you're going to do this for 5 reps, and that could be enough for some people. But at some point in time, you're right. If that keeps you happy and sane, then that's what you should do.
Yes.
But at some point in time, it clicked with me. It's like, hey, dummy, you can do a lot more, and you need to figure out how to get there.
That's the point. So I think that's the point.
Dipping my toes, humbling myself, dipping my toes into the GS waters, hiring out, having someone like Michael teach me, not the basic. I mean, we started with the basics, but teach me, and then let it evolve. So take what you knew, Levi, apply it to what you've learned, and see what's happening. And that's why I can confidently say, because, yes, I'm a subject of one myself, but I've also got plenty of people that will testify. This is different. This lands differently.
I have to add this. I mean, the performance, the episode with you clicked so well, and it's on the podcast channel. That's the small channel. That's not on the main channel, because the main channel is focused on the other stuff, because podcasts don't perform as well. But on that small little YouTube channel with close to 2,000 subscribers on the podcast, it outperformed everything that I did in the recent episodes. And what just goes to show that it clicks with our crowd, where they say, wow, so I can really get some solid, massive results with double bells in my living room? Really? Yeah. If you put in the work, yeah, you can look like this. Of course, yeah, nutrition and everything, with all these variables adjusted, yes. And so it clicks also because these exercises are so fun. I love doing them, and I love them more than doing the snatch. The snatch was actually, I have to be honest, a little bit of a cop-out, where I was like, all right, I think that's the easiest way to get lost of sport.
It's so
Right?
hard.
Yeah, but it's hard, but compared to doubles, it's just different. But I love jerks. I love the double overhalf snatch. I love thrusters. I love the double front squat. These are gruesome, tough exercises, but they build resilience, mobility, strength. You get everything, muscle out of them. They're so awesome. And it's still just another kettlebell that you put on it. It's not, you don't need anything else. And it clicks so well. I train accordingly. It's changed my physique drastically. People started accusing me of taking TRT and drugs and whatever, right? So your method clearly works, and it's so unconventional. Even though sometimes we don't see the forest for the trees, but I know that Joe Daniels was somebody who advocated for using heavy bells to build muscle, which I disregarded for a certain extent. I don't know why I even did this, but I was like, yeah, muscle, blah, blah, blah. And now I recognize, no, thanks to your approach. So no, you're not a subject of one. I mean, the people that you coach most definitely see those results, and our community and what we do and what I do with my clients, I now always keep in mind, once they get to a certain level, let's pick up those double bells. And they're like, really? Yeah. We got to go get those gains. Yeah, but we never did this. That's why we do it right now. It's going to be the double eights for the ladies, but that's fine.
That's fine.
And yes,
start where you're at.
Yeah, start where you at. And let's go. And I mean the resonance and the results. And I think this is where, again, we bring it back to urgency. Results speak for themselves. We can always sit in a circle with 25 trainers and sing Kumbaya because everybody's on that roll and getting those balancing exercises. Great, that's awesome, that's cute. But what are the results of your client? What do they look like? How did they change their biological markers? Did they build muscle? Did they go from overweight to strong and defined and actually building muscle? And what did you choose? What, just kettlebells? Yeah, that's what we do, right? So, and yeah, it's, again, not trying to throw shade. That's not the idea, but we have to talk about it. We have to mention it. It's, like I said, I came to the place where I think, yeah, a heavy double-handed swing is still cool, but I'd rather do double jerk and because it gives me more bang for my buck. But of course, I'm already advanced. I know the exercises. I've taken my time to study them. And that's why I come to enjoy them, because I move efficiently, but I move heavy. And so this is the point that I'm trying to get across, which you share as well. And just to finalize this awesome episode, this approach of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and let's just assume it's that EMOM principle that you mentioned with the 3 half snatch and the 4 jerk and then the farmer's walk, those 36 minutes. This is just one individual workout that let's say you do it on a Monday, and then you switch it up on Wednesday, and then you switch it up on Friday, where you always have the same, like you said, same but different, right, approach with those exercises, and then maybe using a different method, making sure that the framework of 30 minutes is kept. You like to use the 4 time method because it forces you to get back at it when the clock strikes 0. And then on the other days where you use body weight, some burpees and single bells, would you rather classify that approach as your strength endurance conditioning realm with single bells and body weight stuff and ski erg and everything?
Yeah, definitely. That would be my GPP for now. Technically, everything I'm doing is GPP, but for me, For me, what I'm doing, the single bell and body weight, like the burpees and the skier and rower, are what I'm doing to support. I choose on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday to support what I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is what I really enjoy. That's what I think gives me my best return on my investment. And I like to train as much as I possibly can. It gives me mental peace. It helps me, stay grounded. It keeps me less emotional. And so I feel like I need to do something. And so what I'm doing, if I have to scale back my intensity and my volume, I do it on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. So I can still move, but I'm gonna do less is more on those days, if that makes sense. Now, sometimes I still I might do a ton of, like yesterday. Yesterday, my workout was 360 burpees. I did 12 minutes, or I did 12 burpees a minute for 36 straight minutes, or 30 straight minutes. And
wow.
And it was one of those
no
things,
rest.
No rest. It was
that.
Okay. So minute one
speaks volumes, man. Wow.
Minute one is 1 every 5 seconds. Minute two.
Yeah, it's a 5-second burpee. Yeah, I have the same. Yeah.
Yep. Minute 2 is 2 every 10. Minute 3 is 3 every 15. Minute 4 is 4 every 20. Minute 5 is 6 every 15, or 6 every 30. Sorry. And then minute 6 is 12 in a minute. And I just did that for 5 rounds. And that's 300.
I love it. Again, a progressive method where you say in the first minute we go, I have more time to rest. Second minute, less time. Third minute, less time, until you hit minute 5 or minute 6, where you say, let's crank it out, the full 12 reps in
6, yep.
Yeah, and then you go back to. I love that. So it's always. I love this. This is always. And this is the type of approach that makes sense to me. It's like, I'm not going to kill myself because I have double bell work tomorrow, and I don't kill myself intra workout during the workout because I want to make sure I have enough volume during my workout. So I have to have a sensible approach. And so this is what makes sense to me. Where if you would completely destroy yourself with 360 burpees, you probably wouldn't walk the next day. But you give your body enough time to adapt, especially considering the fact that we are over 40. You still you have all these variables at play, but you still challenge yourself to an extent where you say, hey, this is what I'm able to do, and I can do it on a sustainable level. This is what I really appreciate about it. And so I have the same approach. So it's like, for me, it's Monday and Saturday is strength endurance, rather. It's single bell work most of the time, even though Monday sometimes we always do a workout of the week for our Kettlebell Plus members. And then it's most of the time it's single bells because most of our members only have single bells, but then sometimes it's double bells as well. So it's a part of it is maybe double bell work related as well. But Wednesday and Friday is my own stuff where it's my workout. I don't track it. I don't film it. Nobody cares about it. It's my own thing. And then it's only double bells. And then Saturday is back to strength endurance. And now what my goal is now, every Saturday, it's going to be either a 5, a 6, a 7, or a 10-minute set with the 20 or the 24, because I've built so much stamina. I've built such a good engine with my snatch prep that I want to keep it at least on a baseline level and not completely disregard the snatch or the 10-minute snatch sets. It's not going to be. Maybe it's max at 24 because 24 I can handle without completely destroying myself. And then afterwards, it's going to be some burpees, it's going to be a water rower, and it's going to be some farmer's walks. But this is kind of like my GPP to an extent where I want to build those other motor abilities and physical qualities as well, while focusing on 2 bells overhead on Wednesday and Friday. And so, I mean, that approach most definitely works, and I highly recommend for everybody who's watching and listening, if you are if you consider yourself rather on the advanced side of things, the double bell work is just, it's next level, and it's pure enjoyment, and it's rarely seen. I think that's one of the to finish this episode today. The reason why it's for people hard to fathom why you look the way you look, Levi, is because you are using an approach that I haven't heard of. I don't see GS lifters do this. I don't see the hardstyle. Of course, the hardstyle guys are not doing it, but it's an approach that is so massive yet so sustainable, can give you so many benefits that it's out of the question why your body reacts the way it does.
Yeah, it has to respond. It has to respond.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Most definitely. So, hey, Levi, I think it was what, 3 hours and 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. People are definitely going to enjoy this one. And funny thing is, on a podcast, I had a couple of people that were recommended to me. But, I mean, I think I've reached out to, I'm going to talk to Dennis most definitely once again, talking about my snatch competition, and then, maybe get MSIC in snatch maybe in 6 months or next year, because I have my sights on it now, because I think I have 140 reps in the tank. But I think we have to make these conversations a regular occurrence. People enjoy it. I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. It's just getting more out of this 2 bells overhead philosophy, making sure it travels far and wide, that people understand the massive gains and benefits that you get from your work. So yeah, we're going to do this again, most definitely.
Awesome.
And man, I really appreciate your time. This was 3 hours of 20 minutes packed with information, packed with valuable stuff. If you like this episode, you can watch another one right here or here. And if you're over 40 and you want to become strong, fit, and lean without going to the gym twice as fast, don't forget to download my free ebook in the first link in the description called the Kettlebell Code. If you're over 40, 50, or 60, you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to become strong, fit, and lean, and the kettlebell is the perfect tool for this job. And I'm going to help you how to get started. So download that free ebook right now in the first link in the description. Enjoy.